All right, we're back. Big episode of Macrodosing today. We've got a special guest coming up, Dale Brown, Commander Brown. You may recognize him from the Detroit Urban Survival Training videos that you've seen everywhere online. He runs the Threat Management Center in Detroit, Michigan, and he sits down and talks to us about his life's work, all the bloodshed that he's prevented and stopped, all the criminals he's disarmed, and yeah, we get into it. We also have some real-life, real-world applications for his training for Big T, just in case Big T finds himself in another standoff in the office against any coworkers. So stay tuned for that. Gonna be a good interview. I think it was like an hour, right? I think we were penciled in for a half hour, but this guy's a talker. He is a talker. I feel like he's a guy that if you do an interview with in person, you just have to just straight up interrupt him to get in and to steer the conversation.
And I did.
Yeah, I had to do that too a few times. I realized after like the first two answers that he was not going to stop unless somebody like gave him an active signal.
I ain't gonna lie. First question I asked him, I forgot what I asked him. He kept talking. I was like, I gotta ask my second question.
At one point, I found myself thinking, when was the last time somebody asked a question? Because he's been on this answer for 12 minutes.
Mm-hmm. But I learned a lot from him. Hopefully you guys did too. But it kind of fits into our overall topic for today, which is martial arts. We'll get into martial arts in a little bit. Want to do a check-in, see how everybody's doing today. Arian's out on the West Coast again, so it's super early for you.
Yeah, I got on at 9 a.m., dog.
Did you go to bed last night?
Still thinking about drinking, though, huh?
Did you go to bed last night?
Yeah, I went to bed last night.
Well, you sent us a text to the wrong group chat about dinosaurs, and that was at 6:51 a.m. Eastern, so that was 3:50 your time. And then you sent wrong group at 9:01 a.m. Eastern, so that was 6 your time. So at what? And then you're doing this interview at 9. So at what point did you go to sleep?
I don't sleep much, man. I'll get like 2 or 3 hours a lot of nights, and then like I'll nap during the day. And so it's very sporadic, man. I'm in a weird period of my life, so you know.
I do love though that
Go ahead.
I love that Arian's got two separate group chats where sending like a meme about dinosaurs not being real still plays. That's just how you always are. I love that about you.
I thought you were sending it to Big T.
I woke up, I was like, who is Rob?
I assumed it was Big T too.
So my Matt got another group chat with some buddies of mine, real good friends of mine. We low-key grew up together. One of them said yesterday the funniest shit in the world, dog. There's these people that are called, what are they called? Where they just see, I'm gonna find the term for it, but they just see patterns everywhere, right? Let me see. Apaka something, man.
Yeah, and they come up with a lot of conspiracies and stuff because of that.
Yeah, because they just see patterns everywhere, man. And so he sent this like meme where he was like, it makes a lot of sense though. And he dead ass serious. And the meme was, Ukraine's flag is blue and gold. The Rams.
The Rams logo.
The Rams are blue and gold.
Yeah.
The Rams mascot is a ram, and is the star sign is Aries, spelled differently, but Aries is the god of war, right? OBJ scored the first touchdown on, I think it was on the 3-yard line on 3rd and 3 threes, World War III. He's like, I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it makes a lot of sense. I'm like, nigga, this makes absolutely no fucking sense. And so we start clowning him about how dumb it is. And this whole page is full of conspiracies like that. Like wild shit. Like they connected the Bengals being in the Super Bowl to Tiger Woods' car crash somehow. It was like,
and on that too.
It was like wow, dog. And so on that page, he was saying how dinosaurs wasn't real, and one of the dudes in the group doesn't think dinosaurs are real. And I was like, look, man, you're a good company, dog.
That's incredible. That's fascinating.
We were absolutely so wrong on you. At least I was on Ukraine and Russia.
What, that Russia wasn't going to do shit?
Yeah, we were like, Russia isn't going to do shit.
Said that about 6 hours before.
6 hours before they did shit. Yeah.
This show is on a roll in terms of saying things that end up happening.
The thing is, if like, it's crazy that, I don't know. I mean, some of the stories coming out of there are, I don't even care if they're propaganda. Like, they're just
you just be
awesome.
tweeting. You should be tweeting anything,
Yeah,
dog. That shit
dude,
don't
but
even
like the thing
matter.
is, this is like
Father Pilot takes out 6 jets with 1 stone.
I'm like, no, but the
What a
thing is,
badass.
Billy came up to me last week and he was like, "Big T, did you see this story?" And I was like, "Yeah, I was gonna blog it, but I'm pretty sure it's fake." And he's like, "I'm gonna blog it." And it was there was a picture of a line in Ukraine, like a long line, and it said they're handing out machine guns and javelins to any citizen that
javelins
wants
are
one.
RPGs. They are though.
They're not giving them javelin missiles.
Yeah, they are. That
On
was actually
Thursday-
true.
On Thursday, we've got like the the editors group chat. Someone's always keeping an eye on like the draft, like who's starting what, like what, especially during wartime, where we're on high alert. And I think it was Hubs. It could have been Nate, but I think it was Hubs sent me. Billy Football is editing, comparing Putin to Hitler. That was the whole title. There's no text in the blog. I'm glad something went off in Billy's brain to stop.
Oh, sorry. The only thing that was on the news and on the internet was Ukraine. And actually, out of everything I've ever written about, geopolitics is probably one of the things I'm actually most qualified to actually write about.
Yeah, but you don't have to compare every bad thing to Hitler. There's other
But
things.
I mean,
that you
there was
can
a
compare
bunch of
things to.
parallels with
So
appeasement.
the bad Russian things you could compare it to.
I went into the drafts and searched Billy's name. Here are his drafts that have not been completed. Comparing Putin to Hitler. Ukraine is giving citizens RPGs and machine guns, and Ukrainian woman yells some gangster stuff at Russian soldiers.
She literally.
The sunflower seeds.
Yeah,
thing, yeah.
that's sick.
Yeah.
That was cool.
I mean, the thing is, even if I saw one today that's such bad misinformation. I like basically they said that there was a zookeeper in Ukraine who's letting loose tigers on Russian soldiers, which is just totally a lie. Like that's, I was like, okay,
What if that one was true though?
yeah, like imagine.
So y'all got to catch me up. The Ghost of Kiev was fake, right?
No,
it's
real.
It's still unclear exactly what happened. Billy, one thing. This is your first war. There's just a lot of shit that's going to happen, and it's going to be pretty much impossible to verify any of it. And so everyone's just in like a rush to believe the stuff that they want to believe that comes out.
But
I love how you frame it. Like, Billy, this is your first war. He's like,
Yeah.
it's my first war. I
It's
gotta take it
also-
slower.
It's also anyone's first war where video game technology matches what cameras can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's facts.
So
It's facts.
it's like the misinformation's on whatever it was during fucking World War II. It's a million times harder to discern
Yeah.
what you're actually like seeing. Seeing with your own eyes has become more difficult than any other
Yeah.
war in human history.
Mm-hmm.
But the story with the Ghost of Kiev, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Kiev?
Is that he shot down 6 planes in 30 hours, and the reason why he was able to do that was he landed for 2 hours for lunch or something, and then he got going again.
That's still pretty much impossible. Like that's such a hard thing to believe
Yeah.
happened.
What a long lunch during wartime.
Yeah,
2
was,
hours?
was he French?
The plane was getting refueled. That's what that's because they're saying, well, 6
That's not what
planes.
lunch.
They're playing like 6 planes, like only has this many missiles, so he couldn't have shot down all those with one. Anyway,
Yeah, sounds like somebody just did some like rudimentary math and was like, there's no plane that Ukraine has that could shoot down 6 jets at once. And then somebody was like, it was a lunch break. So he landed. All right.
you know what?
problem solved.
I mean, the thing is, if we're spreading propaganda, it only is helping the Ukrainians, which I think is
Well, we don't know. That's the thing. It might seem like it's helping the Ukrainians right now and helping their morale.
well. If they're like spreading it, then that's what they want.
No, what if?
Does it help what if Putin goes, oh shit, they got really badass fighter pilots. I need to nuke them now. And it's all Billy's fault.
Yeah, or if
I don't think he's on Twitter. So he actually
get more woke, Billy.
I
What
think
if
he's on Twitter?
he actually is on Twitter. I tweeted that we should deplatform Putin on Twitter.
So what if this Ghost of Kiev is actually a Russian psyop, and
Justify?
they created him either to justify further escalation, or they created him so that they can then capture the Ghost of Kiev and have just like some actor in Russia playing the hostage of the Ghost of Kiev, and he's like, yeah, let Putin do whatever he wants in the hostage video. Just saying.
True.
Just saying. Keep your eyes open.
Yeah, but one of those badass things. I mean, we shouldn't glorify it.
No, there's nothing.
I know.
There's nothing cool about what's happening at all.
Right. But whenever they capture Russian soldiers, they just give them all cigarettes. You saw that?
Is that before they shoot them? Is that what they're doing?
No, they're not shooting them. That's a huge war crime.
Okay. That's typically what you do, though, is like you give somebody their last cigarette.
I think that was in Band of Brothers, right?
It's just I think I've seen it in a lot of cartoons, actually.
Yeah.
They put the blindfold on them.
I'm genuinely asking, why would that be a war?
To kill prisoners of war that are captured?
War crime is an oxymoron.
Right. Like
if you're anti-war, it's just the whole shit is a crime, dog. The whole shit is a crime.
Yeah.
If you shot him before making him a prisoner, you're good.
Yeah.
Like that's why it's insane to me that
it's like you
captured him. You captured him. Now he's out of bounds. It's the timeout.
Well, because it's like
PFT
execution. Like you can't execute. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, there's
So I can drop a bomb on a church, but I can't.
Yeah, so I'm saying like
No, you
casualties
can't-
of war is not a war crime, but if you capture, so like, it's just fucking stupid.
It is stupid that there are these laws around war that that make certain acts like that actual crimes and against
Who's
the law.
enforcing these? Who's enforcing these rules?
The Geneva Convention,
Yeah,
I guess.
the dudes at Nuremberg.
But it's so tough to prosecute anything like that. You have to prove all sorts of stuff.
America has war crimes on their belt. They'll never get held
Right.
accountable for. Every major country in the world does. They'll never get held accountable for. So
I
it's
saw
like, to say war crime is just stupid.
I saw there
Not
was
saying y'all are stupid.
there was a lady interviewing Condoleezza Rice on Fox News. I think it was yesterday. And the lady goes, well, I mean, Russia just invaded a sovereign nation. That's a war crime. And then Condoleezza Rice was like, yep. Mm-hmm. It's like, wait.
Yeah.
Hey, wait. Are you the same Condoleezza? Are there two Condoleezza Rices here?
That's
Two
former.
Condoleezza.
That's former Browns head coach candidate Condoleezza Rice.
Yeah. But yeah, things have gone kind of crazy. I'm actually like, I'm more scared today than I was last. I wasn't really scared because it was all theoretical. But then you start watching more news and you start seeing more like experts talking about what the next steps are. And Putin, I think, is, I don't know, I'm not a psychological profiler.
He's an irrational actor.
But he seems like a fucking lunatic right now that's at the end of his rope. He just, basically from what I know about the guy, he just wants to restore Russia back to this USSR because having all those satellite states on their western front gives them a nice little buffer against a potential invasion because they put Moscow right on their border like a bunch of idiots.
I mean, I'm just going to say, I don't think anybody wants to invade fucking Russia.
No.
Like, what do you want there? Soviet architecture that's, like, legitimately just terrible? Like, no one wants to take over Russia.
Yeah, it seems like that'd be a real chore.
Yeah, like, why would...
Seems like it would create a lot of problems, like a lot of stuff that
it's like an unnecessary shot at like architects that just like
have you ever
poured
seen
their heart out onto blueprints.
No,
You know what I'm saying?
Soviet architects. Have you seen Soviet buildings?
Dude, Red Square is
Yeah, I mean,
pretty nice.
I'm gonna keep
I was
it
gonna
a
say
buck.
they
I
got some
can't-
cool architecture.
I can't make a building better than that, fam. I doubt that you can too.
I know, but
I
they
mean,
constructed it legitimately to just look. It's like a box. It's like all of their buildings look like prison.
That's not true. Not all of them do.
yeah, I
Well,
don't
like,
think so. I
but
think
They've
that's
got
the case at all.
crazy spires and shit.
Yeah, but
going
that's in
on.
like two places, right? And then everything outside of that is just these.
It's a
like,
big country. I
concrete
think
boxes.
they've got other stuff there too. I think maybe that's what
Bro, what is
makes Russian government so.
You've played Warzone, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Okay, now look at all of the buildings around that.
Dude, look at fucking New York City. Like, what are you talking
I
about?
don't understand your point here, Billy. I really don't.
Verdansk.
It all went back to you've played Warzone, Billy.
Like
Billy's
that's an
experience is
example
all
of
about
Soviet
Warzone.
architecture in Warzone.
Yes, it is.
You
It
just,
is.
but you. I mean, you're right, Billy. They all they buildings suck.
No, I'm just saying, like, Russia's not a very desirable place to, like, I guess they have.
They've
Bro,
got a.
type in Russian architecture and just look at the images and like, I think you bugging. This is some dope ass shit.
Russia's got some good stuff.
Look up Soviet, not Russian. Look up Soviet architecture. It's there. I mean, just the classic, like, buildings you see in the Live Leak videos of the Russians climbing on top of them, like, so high up.
Oh, the
Everything
bridges?
I Google will look better than Hudson Yards. Every single
Bruh.
They've got
Bruh.
great bridges there that people
Bruh.
climb up.
Fire, fam. Fire.
Yeah, but that's like, That's a
That's what I don't
monument.
understand.
That's a monument.
How do you define architecture?
Well, you see how it's all that like concrete? Yeah, it's called Soviet brutalism.
Yo,
Soviet.
Billy funny. Billy, you're a funny dude, bro.
Anti-concrete.
Yeah, I mean Soviet brutalism. I look like you know who'd really know a lot about this? Andrew
Yeah.
Luck.
Like, bro, fire, bro.
Yeah, I think that there's something to be said though that like
It's just, but have you seen
that
the-
Russia their country is so fucking big, and there's so much that you have to like preside over if you're trying to run the place, and so much fucked up stuff that's happened in the past with your systems of government and the genocides that you've had, and all the different like competing interests. It really sounds like a big chore to run the place. Like if I were Putin, I'd probably lose my mind too.
There's no chance, and I mean no chance, he's running anything to the east. No chance. Like he does not care. Like, what is it, 2.5 miles the United States is from Russia? Like the
Yeah.
tip of Alaska or Fairbanks, whatever the fuck it is.
Is it really? Oh wow.
He doesn't give a fuck about anything that's happening. What's that, Siberia? He doesn't give a shit about anything that's
It's all
happening.
woods.
No, he's like, yeah, you can take it. It's woods. It's like old nuclear test sites out
Oh,
there.
and probably a bunch of old gulags that have been abandoned.
Yeah, so I think 80% of their population lives
Billy,
in that,
nigga
like-
Billy says
on that side of the Ural Mountains,
That is what
Right.
most of Russia looks like. Are those
on the
apartment
on the
buildings.
Moscow side of the Ural
That's
Mountains.
the majority of every city in the world, dog. Is you have slums and you have
No,
like
that's
buildings
not
where people
slums.
live.
Take the train from Boston to
Bruh.
New York. That's all you see when you
What
get
is he
into New
talking
York.
about?
That's not. No,
That's
I'm just
exactly
saying
what you
America
see
does
when
it.
you get to New York.
America does it better.
No, they don't.
But this
No,
is
we have-
all
we
that they
have.
have.
We have pockets of really dope buildings, and then we have a whole bunch of like Section 8 housing, and we have a whole bunch of like regular neighborhoods.
But that's even
very
more
average architecture.
like this is like sterile. That's what I'm saying. Like seeing an old house
got
is
it. You got
different.
That picture
got it,
looks looks like
You got it,
the
man.
Bronx. It
Correct.
looks
That's the
like
Bronx.
when you look at
Right.
near Yankee Stadium.
I will
That's
I will give it to Billy that their architecture overall tends to be on the bleak side.
I mean, what I'm saying is
I'm not seeing what y'all seeing. Those fucking like
Is this because it
dope
was like?
ass.
Is this
No,
because?
no, I'm just saying like there's beautiful architecture in every city. And I mean, in every country in the world. Like, and I think to discount that is just for what? Like,
No,
what's
I'm
the
just
point?
saying like that's a lot of Russia is just because it was a one class society. Like all the buildings all look like that because it's quality.
I
You know what I'm
also
saying?
think because it's like constantly gray in the sky in
he's
Russia.
He's banging on communism. I
I'm
got
not,
you.
but that's why I think
I
you're
got you. Nah, you got it.
going hard for Soviet.
No,
architecture.
nigga. I'm saying, fam. You said they don't have good architecture. Demonstrably untrue. Then you boiled it down to the
Soviet
cities inside the city.
brutalism
Of
is thought
course,
to be
bro.
bad. Soviet brutalism is renowned to be like a shitty, because it's just concrete. It's bleak. It's
I'm
brutalist.
just confused. Do you think that like Section 8 housing is just like this greatly designed
No,
architecture?
no, but if you were,
I just don't understand. Like,
but
you have
there's variety in the U.S. Like it's
man, shut the
No, it's
fuck up.
not.
There's
There's variety
variety.
in Section 8. In Section 8
not.
housing, there's variety. Bro, I'm out, man.
I want to
Next
give
one,
it to
next
him. This is a Billy masterclass.
I grew up.
This
I
is
grew
what
up in
we
Section
come
8
here
housing,
for.
man. Shut up, man.
Dude, I'm just saying. Look, I mean,
Man,
have you-
shut up, man.
Billy, have you ever been to like
Yeah,
any major state college town in the United States? They all have the 5 same identical apartment complexes, and they all use some.
And they're named the same.
They're all the same names. It's like Sun Chase,
the Ridge.
The Ridge, yeah, Hunter's View,
Yeah.
Quail Run.
Man said there's variety in Section 8 housing.
I
but
need,
like there's, but like,
I need to find the people
but
that
there's
all
like
run these
walk-ups,
apartment complexes.
but there's
Big
like,
T.
yeah, well, they're,
Like literally every SEC town has, I'm trying to remember what it's called, but it's literally like in Knoxville it's called the Knox, and like in wherever Athens it's called like the
Okay,
Athens or something.
okay, but
like,
that's so. Do these like what colors are these apartment buildings?
They're usually
Tan? I
yeah,
don't
they're
know.
usually like a taupe
Is there
with
differences?
siding on there.
Is there
It's just such a
differences
bad
in
Billy,
the
it's
colors?
such a bad argument, dog.
I'm just saying
Go
there's
to, like, I'm
different
saying,
Billy,
colors.
that
go to
picture
go to
you said-
Mexico, go to Mexico City or go to Brazil, and there are slums filled with different color shacks. what you're saying makes no sense, though.
People talk about the favelas being,
Also,
I know that
well, let's not even
it's-
take it to these extremes.
but
Let's go the other
favelas
way
in
with
itself are like
Favelas.
people take pictures of them in like the.
You're saying
color-
is your point our poverty is more diverse? Is that what you're saying?
I think Billy just fucking hates Soviet architecture.
it's this
It's
argument
unfounded.
is like
It's
people
irrational.
all say like, oh yeah, Soviet. That was the whole joke during communism. Like, oh yeah, like you really want to go by? You know what's behind the Iron Curtain? Like a bunch of concrete buildings that suck. That I mean, I probably just argue like. Did you guys not know about this?
You're not wrong, but it's not
not what we're saying.
exclusive to
That's not what we're
Russia.
saying.
That picture you sent looks like the Bronx.
There's
Yes. Exactly.
there's
But you
something. This is all dovetailing from the conversation about like the Soviet Union. Now Russia would be a tough place to govern,
Right.
and I think it makes them unhappy, makes them want more. Like I wouldn't want to be the ruler of Russia. In fact, I probably wouldn't want to be the ruler of just about
Anything.
any country,
Anyway.
but especially
no.
Russia. And I feel like Putin is in this position where, because he's been around for such a long time, going back to the 90s when he was in the KGB, where he looks at it and he says, I have to be the strongest, most aggressive person, or else somebody else is going to kill me and take my job. He has to make
Commander
everybody-
Brown.
Yeah, he has to have everybody else in fear of him. So he's like, I got to do something crazy. But what scares me now is that now that Ukraine is fighting back, as first reported by Billy Football, the Soviets, or excuse me, the Russians, they've got a shitload of these tactical nukes. So they don't, like when you compare the nuclear arsenal of Russia to the United States, they've got a decent amount. They don't have as many as we do. But the majority of their nukes are these tactical nukes that they'd use like on a battlefield. If they see like a giant encampment of soldiers that they're trying to take out, or tanks, launch a small nuke at them. And then if they launch a small nuke on the battlefield, then the rest of the world would probably have to respond by nuking some of their nuke sites. And then they fire more of their nukes at like cities in Europe.
Yeah.
Then we have to fire nukes at their cities. And then before you know it, like
Yeah.
millions and millions and millions of people are dead.
Yeah. World War
It's a
III.
big billion. Yeah,
But
possibly
we don't
billion.
have to nuke their nuclear sites. We could just bomb them.
We could.
So
It's not a good situation to be in.
it
No.
sucks.
What if we just started calling them the Soviet Union again? Like they don't get any more land, but if we were all just like, no, listen, we heard you. It's USSR again. I think he'd calm down.
I saw someone. It was either on Reddit. They said, "Why don't we just give Putin an NFT of Ukraine,
Yeah.
so he technically owns it."
Yeah, sure. Yeah, or let him into NATO. Just, hey, you're in the club now.
I mean, I don't think, because remember that we were talking about his head of spies. Putin was like undressing one of his top intelligence agents and like yelling at him. And he
That
said,
guy was a little bitch.
Well, the thing is, I don't think anyone under Putin wants this war. I mean, think about it. Like, like everyone just right below him. Like even the Russian soldiers who've been captured, they thought they were on a training exercise, and they didn't realize they were actually invading somewhere
I think they're probably saying that
till they
because
crossed the border.
they don't want to be killed as their prisoners. They're like, yeah, we want to go back.
Well, the Ukrainians are letting and also the Russian soldiers are all like 18-year-old kids.
Right.
Like you saw those pictures of the first guys who got captured, and it's like that's like junior in high school.
Mm-hmm.
How do the people of Russia, like the citizens of Russia, feel about it?
They're protesting the whole.
Yeah, I feel like they don't want the war.
Well, right. I saw like something though where there are like Russian imperialists and apologists, but overall, in a majority, the normal citizens of Russia are also anti this.
Yeah, because if you're a Russian citizen, you're day to day, like you don't give a shit about Ukraine.
Do you want to hear something?
You don't
Right.
you don't feel like you need to start a war with them. You don't want like your sons and daughters to go over there and fight in a war against them for something that's not doesn't have anything to do with them. It's just for the glory of the Russian Empire to
Mhm.
get that land back to make them harder to invade in the future.
I saw one woman who was getting interviewed who it was really interesting to me. Her perspective was so like on the side of Putin, I guess. She said well, Ukraine is Russian land. We would never attack them because like they're Russia. So she was like so far on the side of Putin that she
Yeah.
was like, oh, we'd never do
no,
that.
but you know how it was advertised? They're saying that a neo-Nazi regime has taken over the Russian ethnic Russians in Ukraine, basically being like, Ukraine is Russian, there are Russian people living in it, but their government has been taken over by neo-Nazis who are slaughtering like Russians. It was really weird because
The Jewish neo-Nazi.
yeah,
yes.
exactly.
Yeah, they said that. Yeah, the president was like in charge of a neo-Nazi regime. And I mean, as always, there's gray area and there's like truths to even some of the lies, which is like there are some really shady characters that are in these militias
Yeah.
in Ukraine
The one-
and have been there for a while. But I don't think that like that's Putin just saying like, okay, here's another way we can justify it.
Yeah.
We'll say that it's neo-Nazis that are running Ukraine.
So that's how he justified what he's doing. The special military maneuver was to liberate Ukraine, is how they're painting it.
Mhm.
And then what else you got?
I stand with the leader of Finland and all this. I think that she's got a good head on her shoulders. She seems like,
Bonk.
yeah. I will go wherever she follows. Billy was considering joining the Ukrainian army over the weekend. That should surprise nobody.
Well, I mean, you know, we're joking about this.
They're hiring.
It's not. They are. They're paying like $3,000, like a week. I heard, for foreign nationals who come over. If you go to the Ukrainian embassy, they'll get you on a flight to Budapest, and then you go on a convoy to Ukraine.
Don't-
Pretty wild. They give you an AK-47, a helmet.
You are romanticizing this.
I know. I'm not.
I support it, Billy.
It's just like hypothetically, you could.
Are people doing that?
Yeah, a bunch of Ukrainian, like the Ukrainian Orthodox churches
Mhm.
are all sending like the kids who live there.
but they're negotiating. I think up in Belarus. I think they agreed to have some peacetime talks. So hopefully they get
Well,
this straightened out.
They just sent
I
in
mean,
the Chechen, and they're a real nasty bunch.
Uh,
To put it lightly.
I thought it would have been over, but like I thought Russia was going to steamroll them. Like I thought this was like Alabama versus UMass Lowell.
They're in a
and it
trap game.
Hasn't. No, it's more than
It's a
that.
trap
Like they're
game.
like Ukraine is now, as far as I'm concerned, like in international, like they're now what I thought Russia was last week. Like they are that good.
They
They've
took
got
the
a
next
tremendous defense. They're fucking the video of the guy smoking a cigarette. I know it was a pressurized landmine that he could not really have set off. That's easy to say from the other side of the planet. You be the
Yeah.
one holding the fucking mine and pretend like you're not shitting your pants. And I think he just walked it back to Russia. Like we didn't see the end of that video. He just walked that shit all the way back. If these are the people that you're going up against, like you are not going to beat those. You're just never going to beat those.
I mean, Klitschko. I mean, seeing the images.
both Klitschko's.
Yeah, both Klitschko's. The mayor of Kiev, and then also seeing like the 80-year-old women shooting guns. Like
I haven't seen.
you haven't seen that? They're like 80-year-old, like super old Ukrainians who, since they are so old, they don't give a fuck. So they're like, yeah, like we're gonna defend this country for our children, and we're gonna head out there and kill. Like they said that there was like a 80-year-old man who was like going after Russian soldiers, like in like 1v10, like a whole Russian unit. Just this 80-year-old with a machine gun.
All right, so again, I'm gonna
That's
say
that's.
that seems like
That's definitely
that could
that's
be
definitely
propaganda.
cap. That's definitely cap. But the idea of this like 80-year-old just being like, I'm going out in flames, like, is insane.
The idea is cool.
The idea. Is
We don't know if that happened.
We don't know.
It probably most certainly didn't, but the idea is cool.
It's just, you know, rooting for the good guys, the underdog.
All right, well, we are a pro-Ukraine podcast. We're an anti-war podcast. How about that?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that. I don't really fuck with any government like that.
I don't like. We've gotten to a point where war is so catastrophic, just like the technological advancements. We almost need to, and the powers would never agree to this, but it really should be 1v1. Like, I'm not saying it's going to be Putin versus a certain guy, but like, you name your champion. Like, it has, like, I don't see, otherwise, it's just way too much. Like, the videos of Russia just blasting into the night sky, and like wherever those shells land, they land. Like that's so fucked up to me. Like if you pick your guy, you set the terms 1v1. You want to fight one of the Klitschko's, be my guest.
That's how they used to do it.
Huh?
That's how they used to do it.
No,
in,
I'm
like,
aware,
Troy.
but like that's where we need. That's why I said we need to devolve back to it. Like we have too many evolution. Like what we have now should be reserved for the aliens. Like it should not be used
on humans
for people that occupy our same planet. Is what I'm saying.
The craziest thing is I can't believe like that. You know, Russian soldiers are able to like bring themselves to go after Ukrainians. Like they're literally the same exact people.
Billy, let me
like,
tell you about this thing called the Civil War.
I know, but like I thought we literally progressed to the point where, you know, crazy.
You're a funny, he's a funny guy, man. You're a funny guy.
But
he's
like,
an optimist.
We all thought that World War III, like we as a world had gotten past the point of ground wars of two literal nation states going at each other.
Who thought that?
A lot of people.
There's wars going on.
We just got out of Afghanistan. Like
I know, but we weren't
everywhere.
fighting. We weren't fight. It wasn't two countries going to war with each other. It was
that's how Afghanistan
going after
saw it too,
insurgent.
yeah.
Right, but the way you justify it is going after insurgent group, not an
No, that's the way you
nation
justify
state.
it for
Right,
sure.
right.
Absolutely.
So
That's not what happened.
But like in the post-nuclear world, they never thought two nation states would go after each other again.
Who is they?
Just if you read like political, poli sci
Literature.
Like if you read poli sci theories, living in the post-nuclear age is way different than.
You're telling me academics.
Yes.
In the literature said there's never going to be another nation-state war. When there's literally a nation-state war raging right now.
Right.
Not
exactly.
this one. I'm talking Palestine and Israel. Like that's hard to be
right.
funny,
but the Palestine-Israel thing is still considered to be insurgency in like it's a different dynamic. They're
fighting over land, dog.
I'll bring up the exact
yeah, but how it's phrased is,
writer who
Billy's not wrong. That's how it's phrased. The phrasing's wrong. I disagree with the phrasing, but that is how it's phrased.
Yeah.
How is it phrased?
Like, of course, it's to in actuality, it is invading another country, but the way the phrasing that we're dealing with an insurgency is different than two state-sponsored armies going at each other. Especially in a post-nuclear, no one thought that a nuclear power would go to war with another nation state to risk all-out nuclear war. And honestly, you could say that Putin is liberating. Like, you could frame it that way, but it's straight up just. Let me pull up the exact writer.
Pro Putin now? Is that what we just said?
No, we're not pro Putin.
No, he said the propaganda could phrase it like that, which I have no doubt that Russian propaganda is saying that. I mean, it's what we do. We carry the banners of liberators everywhere, but it's to occupy foreign territory for resources.
And Ukraine has just signed an application to join the EU right now. Yeah. This seems like it's really backfiring on Putin quite a bit. like
nobody had nobody with it.
he overplayed his hands, and obviously this is still ongoing. I don't want to get old takes exposed. He overplayed his hands so bad. Like I think he also thought it would be over. He would have the capital, and it would just be part of Russia again already. Like he was this big bad when he was doing nothing. When he was just the guy keeping quiet. Now he's in the ring, and it's like the 11th round, and people are like, "Why hasn't he won yet? Like, what's going on here?"
2014 was a cakewalk for the Russian army, for the Russian groups. So that's what they thought it was going to be like.
So the rubble has dropped like crazy.
Oh, this is what I was going to say. You know who's really pissed off? The Russian cam girls and OnlyFans models, because they're
back up. They're back up.
They're back up, but it's illegal.
Yeah, according to Jerry Thornton, who's first on the scene, the OnlyFans models they can post.
That's hilarious.
They can post.
Yeah, how does that work in terms of the financial transactions, though? Can we send money?
I'm sure you can if you'd like to try. I'm all set. I don't know.
No, I'm just curious. Like, how do sanctions impact that?
Zanville Krieger. He's the scholar.
He's talking about the exchange rate. Like,
No, so like if you have
like,
a
I get
Russian
more bang
bank
for my buck
account,
now.
like I can't send somebody in Russia a check
Bitcoin.
for
Yeah.
$1,000. If I wanted to like PayPal somebody with a Russian bank account, I'm pretty sure that's completely off the
It's
table
part
right
of the
now.
sanctions that you can't do business with a Russian financial
That-
institution.
Aren't they having like a bank rush right now too? Like everybody's going to the bank trying to get their money out.
Yep.
Which is
Yeah.
what causes like
Bit-
depressions.
Bitcoin's going up. That was what was confusing.
yeah.
I thought Bitcoin would skyrocket the first night, but it bottomed out. I thought that would be an obvious, like, financial alternative.
There's not a lot of confidence in it from that. Like Bitcoin, from my understanding, Bitcoin is it's for people with expended like
Expendable income.
they have expendable income. They have it in reserve. Like people that work 9 to 5, day to day,
Right.
check to check, they're not just going to take all their money out of the bank and put it in Bitcoin because then a lot of people don't have the exchange rate, so I can't go get bread and milk with Bitcoin, and so like it's just not, people don't have a lot of confidence in it. It's more just like a luxury than.
But-
And also, if the rest of the world shuts off your internet and all your money's in Bitcoin, then what the fuck do you do?
Well, if they shut down your financial institution, so this was what was happening in Afghanistan. You saw, like, in the videos from the airport, the Kabul airport, you had people with like tons of bars of gold in their pocket and like trying to carry gold with them. But that was like one of the crypto bro arguments, like, you wouldn't have to be carrying tons of gold if you had just bought Bitcoin instead.
Sure, if you also have no way to connect to the internet, you have
Yeah.
zero. It doesn't matter how much Bitcoin your computer says you have. If you have no computer,
Right.
you've got none.
Right. But Elon Musk's Starlinking up Ukraine's, basically giving the whole of Ukraine internet that's not dependent on the Russians. That's pretty G move by him.
How
Did he
easy
do
is it
it?
to just
Did he-
launch a satellite into space? Like, he's got too many satellites in space for my liking.
Good
Yo, how
question
we
would be
doing
like, why didn't he do this already?
Well, I think they literally the Ukrainian Twitter asked him, like, yo, dude, like, you know that stuff you got, like, they could really help us. And he's like, oh shit, should have done this.
We
way
done that
before."
Elon Musk episode? I can't remember.
No, we haven't
No.
done one yet.
That would be a fascinating one because that's a whole bag of worms.
Oh
right
yeah,
there.
I mean if you look at his, he's got, can't choose your family, but he's got some interesting ancestors.
From South Africa.
Certifica.
South
Yeah,
Africa,
I wouldn't even blame his
Sure.
ancestors. He's done some terrible things, like, very recently.
Like what?
Yeah. Didn't he get there's like a lawsuit with a whole bunch of like
Correct.
practices in at Tesla, racist practices at Tesla.
Oh.
1, 2, and 2, he was at a whole bunch of his employees was like protesting because of I think it's just like worker conditions, like a lot of different things. And so I like I said, we should do an episode where I could dig further into it, but that's just the story that caught. But a lot of that, he be big capping a lot. Like,
He also
a
remember when
lot.
he called that diver in Thailand a pedophile?
Yeah, the guy that was trying to rescue the kids out of the cave.
Yeah.
He wasn't a
Mm.
pedophile, right?
I
Yeah, I think he just
Oh, why
kind
do
of
you
made
want to
that
save?
one
Why
up.
do you want to save those kids so bad, PFT?
Good point. Good point. We're gonna get into martial arts in a second, but guess what? Billy was talking about concrete and the good kinds of concrete and the
Oh,
bad kinds of
hell yeah.
concrete. Concrete is actually one of our sponsors. Concrete, they are the best creatine out there. I've been using Concrete for the last week or so. Better workouts, less fatigue, more energy.
dude, the pump, this gives you a pump.
It gives
This is I don't know, like, Concrete is creatine HCl, not creatine monohydrate. So it's a lot more bioavailable, and I think it's, for some reason, it has a better vasodilating effect than creatine monohydrate, and it doesn't require as much of the hydration. Like, you're not going to be, pissing every 10 minutes because you're chugging 3 gallons of water every day. This stuff works. It doesn't have as much bloat, and I just, as someone who's been, fucking around with creatine since high school, way, this is the good stuff.
It's
way better than my
It's the
100.
creatine HCl. It's the favorite creatine of elite, well-informed athletes, and also Billy. Concrete is the #1 bioavailable creatine with 70% greater plasma uptake than standard creatine monohydrate. I like using it because if I take normal creatine, it does give me that bloat, gives me stomach cramps sometimes, makes me feel bad. This creatine is really good, gives me tons of energy. Workouts are better. Take control of your health, both body and mind. Build a better you with Concrete. Register right now at con-cret.com/podcast. That's con-cret.com/podcast. Receive free membership to Planet Fitness for an entire year, plus a $500 Walmart Visa gift card. They're doing a drawing for that, available now online and in-store at Walmart. Concrete is truly life-changing and performance-enhancing. Check it out. All right. Anything else we want to clean up on that end? Talk some martial arts?
Great tweet this morning, PFT.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
What you said?
Which one, are you talking about the meme one?
Yeah, the meme.
Yeah, Kyler and Putin have a lot in common. You see, in my older days, I would have gone ahead and written like an entire blog comparing Kyler Murray to Vladimir Putin. Didn't have the bandwidth to do that this morning.
That was a top tier tweet, dog. That was just like a top tier tweet.
A little Russian.
Aaron, what do you think about Kyler Murray and the way that he's going about it? Because I typically fall on the side of like get as much money as you possibly can, especially if you're an NFL player, because your body is your livelihood and it doesn't last forever. And there's so little guaranteed money out there for injury. But I do think also that Kyler Murray is acting like a real weirdo for the last year or so.
I have seen nothing of Kyler Murray before this morning. I was just scrolling and I think who retweeted that? One of y'all retweeted it or something. And it was on my timeline. And I read it. I just happened to read it this morning. And it's funny as hell. Like I don't know. There's no I hope he gets paid. It's an interesting way to go about it. My way of going about it was different. But I just speaking for me. If that's what he feels like he got to do to get paid, I side with you, by the way. Get as much money as you can. I don't give a fuck about these organizations. Get bread. Like the way I went about it was like, because I came from humble beginnings, not saying he doesn't. So my mindset was, I'm gonna bet on myself. I'm gonna do me, and I don't want to bring it to the press because that's just gonna bring more mess. Like I don't give a fuck what people think. I don't give a fuck what people feel like. And so like I had conversations with the GM or the owner, like they know where I stand. And so I just went and talked to them like, man, I'm not saying anything bad about Kyler Murray. Do what you got to do. But I just feel like anytime you involve the outside, you put more pressure on it and you put more pressure on yourself. And it just becomes messy, man. And so anytime there's a mess, like I try to avoid, public messes at all cases because you get people putting their nose in shit that don't belong. And then, I don't know, you just end up creating enemies you don't even know. And so I just end up staying away from it.
The way that he's going about it has been really weird too, because he unfollowed the Cardinals on social media. He deleted like what?
I mean, Cardinals fans said like adamantly he never followed.
Oh, he never followed the team.
That's what Cardinals fans said. I follow a disproportionate amount of Cardinals.
But he also, well, I guess Russell Wilson's doing this too. Russell Wilson took Seahawks out of his bio. That's like the new thing now. If you want to, if you're upset at your company, you just take their handle out of your Twitter and Instagram bio, and then everyone's like, "Oh shit, we better pay him more money." It's really strange what's going on there, especially because like I don't think that many Cardinals fans would say like Kyler had a great year last year, especially at the end of the year. He kind of stunk for a lot of it, and yeah, he got banged up a little bit, but it's just an interesting time to be playing like serious hardball.
It was weird because this was. Like he's been such a topic of conversation all off season, but this is the first time anyone from his camps actually said anything. It's just been all like various reporters just saying things that have either been proven immediately untrue or have just been like so out of left field that they kind of died on their own. So this was like the first time he actually said something, and he said it through his agent in like the worst press release. Michael Jordan said, "I'm back." That's all he said. This was like size 1 font long ass thing. Schefter tweets it out because that's all his job is now, is just to be a mouthpiece for agents. And it was just like, what? Like, I'm not reading this shit. Like, hey, pay Kyler.
Shots fired. Yeah, I hate that shit too though. Like you a grown ass man, dog. Like a statement from my agent. Like, get the fuck, like, fam, come on, doggy. Like, just tweet, bro. Like, all you gotta do is tweet. Like, it just seems so coordinated and so forced, and it's like, I don't know. Like I said, I hope he gets paid, bro. But it's like, I don't know. It's hard for me to respect. I don't respect it.
At what point?
It ain't for me to respect.
At what point in life, or in the NFL, do you get a camp? Do you have a camp around you where people are getting messages out of your camp? I feel like that's only a quarterback, right?
No, Julio
Yeah,
Jones
I
had a
didn't-
camp.
He did.
I had
Yeah,
a
I'm
fake
Julio
camp.
had a camp.
Odell Beckham's
I never
dad
had a
was
camp.
his camp.
I never
Great
had a
camp.
camp.
You never had a camp.
Unbelievable camp.
Well, I had people that worked for me. I paid them for their services, but like I always spoke for myself. It wasn't like Arian Foster's agent said. It was always me. Yeah, I don't really.
Did your agents
I-
hate that?
No, my agent was cool. I realized early on agents are they're gonna go away, and and I, you know, shout out to the agents that I had, but like, it's just they're gonna become obsolete. Yeah, and so I figured that out early, and so like example was when I was in the league. I think maybe I told the story before, but when I was in the league, the minimum was 3%. You pay agent 3% of your contract, right? And I didn't do combine with this cat. I didn't do anything with this cat. I met him in the league, and I changed agents. And like I said, it was 3% was the minimum. And when the deal came, I was like, why am I giving this nigga so much? Why 3%? And so like my brother had been training me, so I was like, I'm gonna give him a point on the contract, and I'm gonna take it from you. And he's like, oh, you know, yeah, you can't do that. I worked hard for this. Like, you can take it or leave it. Like, this isn't an option. Like, work for me. He's like, no, I'm taking it, but I'm just saying. I'm like, whatever. And so like I realized then is like you hold all the leverage, and I think now players realize it way more. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm out the game for a little bit, but I think the minimum is 1% now. And what's gonna end up happening is you're gonna end up having either a firm or people, internal people that you know, hire people to just do a flat fee, negotiate this for 60 grand, and I'll pay you.
So,
And you keep all the rest of that back money. I don't gotta pay you 500 grand just for knowing the right people. Like, it's stupid.
yeah. Quick question: what does an agent do in those situations? Like, what skill do they actually lend?
Sometimes there are some benefits. Relationships with GMs can be beneficial if you're a pro bowler, all pro. This shit don't matter, dog. Your shit slotted, and you can bang for. At that point, you just bang it for how your money's getting dipped up, right? There are ways, like if you're a low tier level player, relationships can get a guy looked at, can get a workout, can get shit like that. If you get fined for your socks being too high, some shit like that, like they can negotiate, you know, an appeal and shit like that, like little shit like that. But as far as like cats, like Kyler Murray or whatever the case may be, I advise now, anytime cats hit me up, I'm like, negotiate your own shit. That you don't need an agent, and agents hate that shit. I bet.
Do you need a law degree? Do most agents have a law degree?
No, you need like I
Oh.
think it's a $2,000 certificate. It is. I mean, it is contractually a legal binding contract. So there is jargon in there that you won't understand. This is why I say you had to hire somebody at a flat fee. You didn't go to school for this shit. And this is what pisses me off about business in general. It doesn't have much to do with the NFL, but contractually, ownership will put all of this language in there. They do this shit in courts in general, like with family court, criminal court. They put all this jargon in there that's not. It's hard to comprehend for the average person, and so they end up taking it's just so they can take advantage of you. There's for no other fucking reason. Your contract should be 3 or 4 pages, period. But it's multiple pages because it's all this jargon it's just so pointless. It's just so pointless.
My father in high school pushed me, not heavily, but he was like, go into contract law and just sell your services for, like you're saying, $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 and undercut agent. And that seemed like a lot of reading. I obviously didn't do it. But he had the vision, like you can now. On the flip side, Arian, there was another story with a max guy and an even easier league to get paid, the NBA. James Harden got traded to the 76ers, which he facilitated himself. He is his own agent. But the opt-in date for his next year's contract, he forgot to file the paperwork. That is where an agent can help some people I think do need an agent. Like if you're on top of your P's and Q's, you don't need an agent. Like Jaylen Brown doesn't have an agent. Like certain people for sure don't need them.
So
James Harden probably needed one.
This you're not wrong, right? And I mean that's his like what it is. But like at that point, he got monopoly money. He got so much bread. It's just like that. It wasn't a priority for him. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm talking about cats who on like a
basketball rarely is.
Yeah, so I'm saying. So it's like, but this is one thing I do know about that whole he doesn't have an agent thing. They don't have agents, but they have somebody who's kind of facilitating. Yeah, business manager that is facilitating. Nobody's out here like anybody. I sat down and negotiated. No, you didn't. I guarantee.
Well, like right now, so like a guy who's won an MVP, and back to football, there's a guy who is in a similar situation to Kyler, still on his rookie deal, has won an MVP, doesn't have an agent. Lamar Jackson is probably not going to get paid as easily as a Josh Allen, probably even Kyler. It might be beneficial for him to have an agent.
No. There was also a circumstance a few years ago, I think it was 2013, Elvis Dumervil, the pass rusher from the Broncos. He agreed to take a pay cut. I think they knocked his pay by like 25%. He agreed that he'd do it, but his agent had to fax over the contract. He hit his agent up, and it was like a last-minute deal. The deadline was like 4 p.m. His agent faxed it over 6 minutes too late, so the contract was void. He became a free agent, and then ended up getting paid by the Ravens.
Yeah.
And I think he ended up making more money over the lifetime of his deal with the Ravens than if he had taken that 1-year deal. Obviously, anything can happen after the 1 year. It worked out in his favor, but he still fired his agent for not being able to fax it over, which just makes.
I thought that was the teams who fucked that up. I didn't realize that was an agent fuck up.
No, the agent was like driving around Miami trying to find a fax machine. And why are we still using faxes?
Insane.
The only time,
text that shit over.
only time you ever have to fax anything is if you're like signing a new lease on a contract.
You don't even have to do that.
Yeah,
you can email it, text it. There's apps signed now. Like, nah. Fax, it's just done. It's for old people.
I think I had to fax my contract over when I signed my deal at Barstool. I'm trying to remember.
I emailed mine.
Really? Yeah, I did mine online.
Did you?
Yours might have a little bit more
That's
language in it.
That's true.
Yeah, I had the 3 extra pages of nothing but zeros. At the
Yeah.
end of the number. I had to.
That is,
Yeah.
It said attachment too large for Gmail. So I had to fax that over.
I love it.
that is an element of having an agent, is that you
That's
don't have to
stunning.
self-advocate to like either get more money or get leverage, because if you just feel like if you're not a like in those situations, Arian, do you think that there's guys who, if they didn't have an agent, might get taken advantage of and not get what they're supposed to earn?
Guys with agents get taken advantage of. Guys without agents get taken advantage of. What it is the issue goes back to, and that's why I don't fuck with the NCAA, because they don't treat athletes like small CEOs, right? If I start any business out fresh out of college and I'm making $300K a year, which is league minimum, like I've prepped myself to understand financially the pitfalls and the highs that come with that, right? But the NCAA doesn't do that because they want to hide under the guise of amateur sports. And so it goes all the way back to that. If guys are more business savvy, right, and look at themselves more like CEOs and look at themselves like this is a business, then they can start to negotiate on their own terms and understand your market value. Even if I'm a special teams player, there is a very niche market for special teams player, and there's a salary, there is a market, and once you start understanding that, you can start doing your own shit. But we don't treat our guys like that. So we go to the league, we just got all this money, I need a financial advisor, I need an agent because I'm too dumb to understand. No, you're not too dumb, you just weren't prepped well. You know what I'm saying? You weren't taught as a young kid, yo, you're about to be a business. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't etched in your mind. So that's why I don't fuck with the NCAA.
The nice thing about agents, I will say something nice about agents.
No.
They handle the conversations that you don't necessarily want to have, and that can vary from person to person. Some people want to have those conversations,
That's true.
but
That's true.
but I would, like, me personally, in my circumstance, I would rather just focus on the stuff that I like to do here at work and not have like a contract negotiation where I'm sitting down with Dave or Erica and I'm like going back and forth with the details, and they might make a first offer that's too low, and then I could feel disrespected personally because they said that to me. Like having it filtered through an agent that's building up like leverage and taking care of all those details, it's just like one less thing to think about. Some people like that,
That's
some
true.
people don't like it.
Because then you're paying for convenience. But for the specific example that you mentioned, business 101, it's just business, is never personal.
Yep.
Never take it personal.
Yep. All right, let's get into martial arts. Let's talk about it.
Dude.
Martial arts are fast at what, Billy?
Dude, I got so deep into sumo.
I love that Billy picks sumo
Oh
as
my
his.
god, sumo is insane. Like, just the ins and outs of sumo. We could have done a whole episode on sumo.
Okay, let's.
Is that a
On each
technical
one.
martial art?
Hmm?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sumo wrestling's a martial art. It's
Yeah.
it's like not. It's like the same way that it's a fighting discipline with certain rules, like the same way like wrestling is a martial art.
Yeah, let's start with sumo. The only thing I know about sumo, aside from like clips and stuff that I've seen on the internet and on TV, is there was like a massive cheating scandal that rocked the sumo world. I think Malcolm Gladwell might have written about it. Maybe somebody else wrote about it. But it was like, if you make it to the pros in sumo, as long as you have your win-loss record or your points, whatever they go by, if your points are at a certain level, then you stick around in that same division of being a sumo wrestler, and they don't demote you and they don't bring somebody else up. And there was like statistical proof that sumo wrestlers were, if somebody didn't have to win a match and they were going up against somebody that needed to win a match or get a certain amount of points in order to stay in the top premier division, the person that needed those points won almost all the time. They almost always got it. So there was like an honor system in sumo wrestling.
Yeah, there was a match fixing scandal that basically had close ties to the Yakuza.
Yeah.
So just like something out of a movie, the Yakuza just fixing sumo
But
wrestling matches.
walk us through the history of sumo wrestling.
So sumo wrestling.
Real quick. Let me give you my little experience for sumo wrestling. It was the most
wait.
fire shit in the world.
Wait.
So I went to Japan in like 2018, and my dude has like a travel agent that just kind of like fixed the whole trip for us. So we was in Kyoto, and I didn't even know, and we got tickets to like what was the championship of the sumo wrestling match. So it's like in this, like, I don't know what they call it, but it's like in this arena, but it's like stadium seats just filled, and at the bottom is this little like sumo area that they do it in, whatever they call it.
Mhm.
And so we just sitting there, and we don't know, we the only black dudes in there, right? We just, everybody else is Japanese, obviously. And and we sitting next to this lady who doesn't speak any English, but she sees we not from there, but she starts laughing because me and him, like, we was having a good time, and we start betting on the matches. So there's like brackets, and there's dudes, and so me and him is taking Japanese money. I think it's yen. And we don't know these cats at all. We just betting, and she just finds this shit funny as fuck. And so we start kind of like talking to her shit, like the best we can. I had like a translator app and shit, and we're like making her laugh and shit. And I wasn't trying to do anything. I had a shorty at the time. It was just all good and joke. One of the sumo wrestlers, I like noticed he keeps looking up like towards in our direction. And I didn't think that at first. I was like, he keeps looking up here. Like, why is he looking in this direction? So kind of find out, like, she's pointing at him. She's like, yo, that's my guy. And so my dude is over here like thinking I'm trying to bang at a shorty. What was crazier was like, and I come from American sports, was like, they're affluent, right? You get paid a lot of money. I'm waiting in a taxi line afterwards. The sumo wrestlers are in line with us to go to get a taxi. It was just a wild experience. I never experienced anything like it. It was really dope though.
So did you get her number?
Nah, I wasn't there for that. And especially when she said that, I backed off.
Her
like,
man's came back.
He's 400 pounds. I can't. I know my limits, doggy. I ain't the Commander Brown, bro.
I mean, the history of sumo goes back thousands of years. Like they have the same sort of league, I think, has been going on since like the 1100s. But basically, like, the sumo lifestyle. It's not just a sport; it's a lifestyle. Like, how do these guys get that big? And is taken like, you know, the science of it is actually very interesting. Like, basically, all these guys live in a frat house, and they have junior sumo guys who are basically their pledges, that they just make all the food, set up the mats, like, and learn from the older sumo guys. And basically, like, the amount of prep work it takes for these guys, so they wake up every day, they don't eat until 11. The junior sumos make the food, which is a different mixture of soup and just high calorie, high protein, and they're just drunk all day. They drink like 6 pints of beer with their gigantic, like, 4,000 calorie meal, and then they train twice in the day, and for the most of, like, they're just boozing every day.
They just to try to put on mass.
Yeah, to put on mass.
Because I actually looked up what the average BMI of Japan is.
Yeah.
And how that ranks against, because when I think of Japanese people, I don't know if this is a stereotype or not, but I think small people,
Right.
right? They're shorter in general than, I think they're probably on the shorter side if you look at an average. And in terms of weight, I would also expect them to be pretty far down there. I looked it up, and so Japan, in terms of BMI, they're 169th in the world. They're way down there. They are like a very overall, on average, skinny people.
Yeah.
But they've created the subculture of the sumos, who their job is to just be like the biggest people in Japan. So I don't know, do they take big people that want to be sumo wrestlers,
Yeah.
or do they take just like normal kind of strong people and they're like, okay, we're going to get you fat?
A lot of it runs in the family. So you'll have like a family of sumo. In the junior sumos, from the sounds of it, the junior sumos definitely get abused pretty badly. Like, they'll get like 17, 18-year-old kids and just throw them in a house with like these, like, some of them are like 30, 40-year-old guys, and they just like boss them around all day and like mess with them. So,
Sounds a lot like here. Yeah, but I think Billy would actually love to be in one of these sumo houses.
I mean, think about it. Like, basically, you wake up, you do your sumo, you just put on mass all day. They've just started to incorporate more weight training and, you know, actual strength and conditioning routines. Before they're just literally eating.
So what happens to a sumo wrestler after they retire? Is it like an offensive lineman where a year later they'll show up and they'll have lost like 150 pounds?
So they have very low visceral fat, and they're considered to be some of the healthiest fat people in the world. So their fat is all subcutaneous. I want to know. It's all
like woven into the.
Right. It's all on the outside of their body.
Okay. Yeah.
But-
outside of their abs.
Right.
Yeah.
Subcutaneous.
Subcutaneous. Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
it's not visceral fat, so their internal organs aren't fat, like fatty liver disease, like a lot of alcohol. I don't understand how they're healthy fat people, but they drink so much.
They probably just work out a ton.
Yeah.
Too.
But
Wrestling is like insane cardio.
yeah, and from what I've been seeing, and if you watch videos, like, the only thing I can compare it to is, you ever seen elephant seals fight?
Naturally, yes.
Yeah, you know those videos? Coley knows what I'm talking about. These guys hit each other like, it's like two guys coming off the line, but since they're not wearing pads and they're bare chested, you just hear this slap. You just hear the slap of them hitting together. It's like ridiculous.
All right, now I want to go to a sumo fight.
I
but
think and they do this ritual before you can even start wrestling or any of that. Like, they have to bless the mat with salt. But what that actually does is like, it's very funny how they came up with all these traditions that actually we now know today why those traditions happened, because of the science behind it. So like, they're putting salt on the mats to almost disinfect them, to like prevent, like, you know, a lot of, I don't know if you guys had, like, every wrestling team in high school has like a staph infection outbreak or something. Like,
yeah, there was
everybody.
herpes on the mat.
Yeah,
At one point.
and it's like, that's like you know, mat rats
Ringworm.
used to just make fun of wrestlers for being mat rats.
Ivermectin.
Ivermectin.
Another fun
Real quick,
fact.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that I was looking up fun facts about sumo wrestlers. They're not allowed to drive cars.
Yeah, they're too big.
Yeah.
They're too big to drive in cars, and also they're not allowed to be bald, which is Very funny. So if they go
Problematic.
Yeah, if they go bald, they're not allowed to compete in professional in their like ancient league anymore, which is very weird. But
So when I was in Japan, dog, I was asking questions and stuff to some of the tour guides and shit around there, and they was saying when you said that's why I gave it a little smirk when you said that they're healthy or whatever the case would be like.
Yeah,
them niggas be dying like young, like
Right,
when
but-
they retire, like they die young, and this is just from the experience that I had. I don't know, I didn't do any research on sumo, so you may be right, but from my experience and what they was telling me was like they die young. And it's very admirable as far as like they're heralded, like they're loved, but how they get there is like they overfeed them. It's not just beers, like they overfeed them,
Yeah.
and that's why they die young, because it's not healthy.
but if you so they die young by Japanese standards. So like in Japan, people live like I think the average age is like 80, very high compared to the rest of the world. But they die like the average age of a sumo is 60 to 65.
That's still pretty young
Yeah.
Yeah.
for a developed country. One thing that I just looked up here about sumo wrestling, this is interesting. The referees in sumo, there's one top guy at any given time. The position can only be held by one guy, and they're called the gyoji. So it says that it's the equivalent of the yokozuna for wrestlers, which is like the top sumo wrestler. The gyoji is the top referee official for sumo wrestling. And when he walks into the ring, he carries a sword, and it's about 12 inches in length. And if he makes a bad decision, he has to be prepared to commit seppuku, which is
Yeah.
suicide by his own sword.
We need this in college basketball.
No. We need this in American sports across the board. I've long been like who polices the police, who
Yeah.
referees the refs. Like there's no one holding these people to any sort of standard. And if they had those last 2-minute reports that come out in the NFL or in the NBA, I know the NFL has stuff too. If it was just like, yeah, man, you really imagine Saints fans if they got to see that ref just fucking take himself out after that non-pass interference call, they would have been perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, so they usually don't end up taking themselves out. But they do submit their resignation if they make a clear mistake. They'll ritualistically commit seppuku, which is just like take their career away. They resign in great disgrace. I would like to see something like that happen. Like, we don't get enough disgrace.
No.
People don't accept disgrace in America for anything that they do.
Even Tim Donaghy, like he's got a fucking podcast now. Like he's not disgraced.
Right. There's nobody resigns in shame anymore in this country. That's the problem.
By the way,
Yeah.
you know who's taken over sumo? Mongolian. So some of the best sumo wrestlers nowadays are Mongolians, because Mongolians, we were talking about how the average Japanese height and weight is very small. Mongolians are like easily average over 6 feet, and they're very tall people. And they've like totally cucked Japan of their sport that they once that they founded. So these Mongolians are coming in and totally dominating Japanese sumo.
Damn.
Why are there not more sumo wrestlers converted to offensive and defensive line?
Bad hip flexibility.
I think they could probably make it work with like the best of the best. The amount of skill that it takes, I'm sure, to be the best sumo wrestler, the yokozuna in Japan, is probably, you can probably transfer that ability over. I think, though, from what Billy was saying earlier, these guys don't get to be like top of the line at a young age. It takes a
Right.
while to
Yeah, it's
to
a
work
lot.
their way up.
It's a lot of technique, in so it does take a long time. And the thing is, they live in these they call them stables, these like frat houses full of sumo wrestlers, and the lifestyle, like, I kind of think you could prepare for sumo with a different approach to the training, but I think then you would lose like the knowledge gained from living in those frat houses, like associating, because these guys, sumo is their life. They talk sumo all day.
You're basically saying LeBron James should have gone to college and gotten that team experience, and then he would have been a better player.
Well, the thing is, I think the culture and lifestyle is so important to just gaining the knowledge of how the older guys get so good. So, like, think about, I mean, I think it's more of a sport that isn't solely athletic based.
Yeah, it's cultural
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff that if you know all the stuff that goes into it and the training and the traditions and stuff, it's
Yeah.
probably that's why it has such deep ties to the Japanese community where they take it so seriously.
Like, I feel like if you just got, an offensive lineman type who was training the scientifically appropriate way, like, doing Olympic power cleans, working on explosion as well as putting on mass, he may, do decently in sumo, but might not have the technique and knowledge just gained by sitting around drinking with these guys every day. Like,
Yeah, Aaron Donald, I still am convinced though could probably dominate sumo wrestling.
well, Aaron Donald's 300 pounds. These guys run around 360.
Billy
close
yet
to
again
400.
disrespecting Aaron Donald on this show.
I know he's a very dominant player, very dominant as a defensive lineman, but I don't think he's the Superman everyone thinks he is.
I mean, he's arguably the best defensive player ever.
I know.
Who's in your lifetime? What defensive player is better?
Like,
TJ Watt.
I'm dying for this
no,
answer.
No, I'm not gonna pull a what's his face. Our favorite Australian American. You guys know what I'm talking about. The Twitter guy.
Nick Adams.
Nick Adams. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I'm not pulling a Nick Adams, but
Oh yeah.
I might be off on Nick Adams, guys. He after our little interaction with him, he became too self-aware at that point. He started just like tweeting out Blake Bortles facts and stuff. It was like, come on. You need to at least present the air of believability in this one. And I don't get me wrong, I love Blake Bortles.
Yeah, what are you trying to say?
But he was pandering. That's my problem with him. He started to pander after that, and I was like, no man, play the hits, get back to the Tebow stuff.
He wasn't pandering before, yeah.
I want to get back to this question that he asked. You don't think Aaron Donald is the Superman everybody thinks that he is? I'm just curious as to what you think we think he is, and then what you think he is.
So, like, for example, I don't think he's like Ray Lewis. I think Ray Lewis had more of an effect on the team and the game and the outcomes.
I don't know. I mean, the Rams just won a Super Bowl, largely in part because of Aaron Donald.
Right.
I don't know. Aaron Donald is one of those guys where I trust people who understand the sport of football more than I do, and their analysis of it, and they show, okay, this guy gets double, triple teamed all the time, and he's just a guy that cannot be contained.
I think Von Miller made Aaron Donald way more effective when Von Miller came over.
I'm gonna disregard that, and what I will say is, what made Ray Lewis so special. Trust me, I played against Buddy. I know Buddy is my guy.
Yeah.
But what made him so special was he always had a huge D lineman in front of him to kind of shed blocks for him. So like Tony Saragusa or Haloti Nada, who are two of the best ever. Yeah. So there was always somebody in front of him who was like really, you know what I'm saying? What makes Aaron, and I'm not saying that's slightly, he plays linebacker, he plays on the second level. It's just hard for him to, but he's one of the greatest linebackers of all time, right? Arguably the best. But what makes Aaron Donald so special is like what PFT says, like, one, he's undersized, but two, he's getting double and triple teamed all day long. And the position that he's doing it in, and his quickness and his agility. And when you said he didn't have feet, that was fucking hilarious.
No, I'm saying just like the dexterity required to like run an army off.
We're not gonna have this debate.
Okay, anyway, let's.
No, we sure won't.
Like when you said he didn't have feet.
I
think he would be a great sumo wrestler.
I think he probably would be too. And if you get
leverage,
if you put him in the frat house with the bros, and you get him eating a nice steady diet of like high fatty fish, omega acids, drinking beer every day, I'm pretty sure that he could put on some weight.
Right, but not even that part. I think that he would be better off athletically to not live like a sumo. I think he'd be more explosive, stronger.
That's all sumo wrestlers, bro.
No, but like it's kind of funny because the sumo lifestyle is almost antithetical to the sport that they do. Like the way
every one of them would be more explosive if they didn't live like a sumo wrestler.
Right. And thus like probably be better at the sport. But because the knowledge, most of it is like technical knowledge that they gain from living in close quarters with older sumo who did it that way, they'll never get to the point where, you know, you got an Aaron Donald with, like, Aaron Donald, total, like, specimen with great training that's doing, like, modern strength and conditioning training.
Aaron Donald needs to be
with
hazed
those
more,
skills.
is what Billy's getting at. If you just haze him,
Yeah.
then it truly unlocks his
'Cause-
potential. You know, there was an American sumo champ, the first ever foreign-born sumo grand champion was from Hawaii, and his name was actually Chad.
Of course.
Yeah, Chad Rowan was the first foreign-born grand champion. They changed his name. They gave him a sumo name, which is Akabono Taro. But it should have just been Chad, and that's it. What else you got for, like, the history of sumo, Billy?
Turns out they're not neutered.
Okay.
For some reason.
That was not. Did anybody
Thank you for
think that they
clearing
were?
that up.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm literally doing research. No, sumo wrestlers are not neutered. The idea that sumo wrestlers were neutered comes from age-old assumptions about why they grow such perfect hair. Early conspiracists argue that there was no way that sumo wrestlers could keep such perfectly healthy hair throughout the years unless they'd previously been castrated. This makes me think that they're neutered. They're neutered.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, guys, we're not neutered. We're not all just living in this frat house.
Does
neutered.
that also make you keep your hair if you cut your balls off?
Testosterone causes balding.
Got it.
High levels.
All right. Well, that's debunked then.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need you to specify everybody else that we talk about whether or not they're neutered from now on, Billy.
Yeah.
It seems like it's just guys being dudes.
Yeah. I mean, like, think about it, like, waking up. I mean, it's definitely hard being a junior wrestler. I mean, a junior sumo where you actually have to do all the work. But the older guys literally have, like, pledges throughout the whole rest of their life that cook for them. You know, they basically beat the hell out of the younger wrestlers. It's, like, real, you know, talk about offensive, like, it's basically if you take offensive lineman culture, you know, like how offensive linemen have their own, like, little thing on every team you're on, like, and then just, like, make it a literal lifestyle and with religious connections.
I love the
There's
foot
a lot of
stomping thing they
technique
do
involved.
too.
There's a lot of technique and culture and
Yeah.
tradition involved too. It's dope.
All right, I think I officially want to go to a sumo wrestling match.
I think it'd
now.
be so hype.
It's fire, dog. We was hella faded. We was betting on everyone because it's like the matches last like top a minute, right? And so there's like 50 guys and they're competing in this whole thing. And so like just imagine putting down bread and you just think, I got to do it on the right, got to do it. It was a fun ass experience, man.
And they toss each other.
Yeah,
Like, a lot of
they get
tossing.
it. They get it in. So
All right, that was sumo wrestling. Big T, what's your discipline of martial arts?
So I looked into Muay Thai a little bit because I love the way that Joe Rogan says it. I just hear him say Muay Thai all the time, and I'm like, when you said do martial arts, I was like, that sounds as good as any other, I suppose. So obviously it originated in Thailand or Siam at the time, in like the 16th century, I think. But it became pretty popular fairly recently, and it's similar to kickboxing, except kickboxing, they said, uses 4 points of contact or something like that, and my Muay Thai is 8 with use your elbows and knees a lot.
That's like John Bones Jones, right?
Yeah, so I watched some stuff on it, and it just looks like UFC to my untrained eye, but I guess it's, you know, more intricate than that. But yeah, so it uses striking and clinching techniques. It's known as the art of 8 limbs. It's so gambling is illegal in Thailand, but it's from what I understand, they kind of like turn a blind eye to it just for this. So it's a huge like gambling thing there, and a lot of shit goes down in that realm of it. I guess I was reading about how the gamblers go to these fights and they have signals for who they want to bet on. So there'll be a bookie sitting somewhere in the crowd, and then the guys will make like an open fist if they want to bet on the underdog, and then like turn their palm down if they want to bet on the favorite or something like that. And then so if you're kind of just relying on that people are taking your word for it, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on with that. Yeah, it seems fairly interesting.
There was a different type of Muay Thai that Muay Thai evolved from, so the original, I think, the head was the other weapon that you could use.
Love
like
that.
headbutting was encouraged, and then they took that. I think it was one of those things where like you watch the UFC fights in UFC 1, UFC 2, UFC 3. The moves that they were able to pull back then, it's shockingly violent if you watch those first fights. Like elbows to the head repeatedly, kicks to the groin. I think the only rule was I don't think you could eye gouge and
Fish hooking.
you couldn't fish hook either.
Yeah.
What is that?
I don't know what's fish hook.
Yeah.
It's where you put your hand in somebody's mouth and you just pull on their cheek.
Okay.
It's pretty brutal.
That's how Matt Gaudet, the lacrosse player, got his finger bitten in that barroom brawl.
Yeah, that
at the
seems more dangerous
PLL.
for the person doing it than
Yeah, I
the
don't
person having it done to them.
Fish hooking is like, I feel like it's a stupid.
It's a bad technique. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was initially outlawed. Just because it was maybe
Why
because it
would
was
people
gross.
do it?
Yeah, you could probably fish hook somebody's butthole, but you couldn't do it to their mouth. Muay Thai is kind of like that, where Muay Thai evolved from another type of fighting, where it was like a little bit more, slightly more violent, and they're like, we need to implement a couple rules here. What was the? Oh God, Billy.
No, I literally, when people fish hook, they're trying to pull the cheek and tear the flesh.
Yeah, did you? Yeah. Like,
I know,
ugh.
I know, but like, literally, people used to just have half their face ripped off. When
Buck
people,
50.
yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was like some sort of submission technique.
Muay Thai is the style when I see a UFC fighter that's really fucking sick at Muay Thai, I always think that's the most violent dude. It just looks extremely painful to fight against a guy. Like something about elbows and knees, just
Dude,
it's brutal.
I could not imagine kicking an elbow by accident and like shattering.
No, they're strong.
Like, you see, like that's where it gets weird. When fighting ends up, you see those guys like cracking their tibias,
The tib fib.
shin bones.
Yeah,
stuff.
when I would watch John Bones Jones when he first started coming up,
Yeah.
that dude was violent as shit. Like the spinning elbows that he would hit you with. I'm shocked that nobody died from his elbows
And
that we know of.
Crow Crop. I watched his highlight tape. He has like was getting like hit with a shotgun. His right leg. No, it was his left. But
We talking a tib fib?
yeah, Mirko Crow Crop was goddamn savage. He used to. It was like getting hit by a truck.
Arian, have you ever fought Muay Thai?
Nah, they used to train it at my at the gym I used to do jiu-jitsu at, and they used to do it like after we left. It's just different. Like the striking is entirely different. It's like very like jiu-jitsu, which I'll get into, but jiu-jitsu is more like it's like passive aggressive. It's more like self-defense, where like Muay Thai is like I'm coming after you, like very aggressive and hard. Like strikes, it's all about striking, like really hard strikes.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever want to fight Muay Thai. Not like the people that fight Muay Thai recreationally to stay in shape and as an activity that they enjoy, got to be total psycho.
Yeah.
Like you're essentially saying, yeah, I'd like to constantly have a black eye, my entire life, and at least one broken limb.
I'm pretty sure Chef Donnie was in a smoker fight in a bar in Thailand. I don't know if it was boxing or kickboxing. I think it was just boxing, but he fought in a smoker fight.
What makes you want to get into something like that?
Muay Thai?
Or like,
I think if you're just good at it, and if you're very good at it and you just never lose, then you're like, yeah, this is an excellent hobby. But if you're
It's a very effective martial art. Yeah.
If you're an average Muay Thai fighter, you probably don't stick around for that long.
Yeah, like I just don't understand how someone gets into something like that and you just are constantly getting like beat to just
It's cultural.
yeah. Like, do you start when you're like sick? Or do you
Yeah,
start when,
it
like,
said a lot of them start very, very young.
Do they make their kids wear helmets and stuff over there? Or are they just like,
I don't think so.
yeah, like what? I don't know.
Dude, there's this guy Sage Northcutt, who I think is retiring from MMA, but he got caught. He literally broke his whole face. He was like supposed to be the next star of the UFC, but then I think he went to Pride and literally broke his whole face recently. And he was like the American karate, supposed to be like the newest American karate champion, and you could just tell that like even though he lived in America, like it paled, like his fighting style pales in comparison to the aggression of like a real Muay Thai guy, like straight out of Thailand.
I think Muay Thai is definitely on the list of things I will never try.
It's human cockfighting.
It is. I'd much rather try sumo.
Sumo would be. We should just fuck around, like do some sumo in a ring. Like that's what we used to do, like in wrestling PE. Like we wouldn't actually wrestle. They
Slam chests against each other.
yeah, just like try to throw each other out of the ring. Doing PE.
Yeah, Muay Thai. It's a hard pass for me on Muay Thai. Was it ever like used in their military?
I don't know about that.
I'm just always curious where these things start.
Well, it said it was in the 16th century as a peacetime martial art practiced by the soldiers of King Naresuan, something up to that nature. And then there was a French diplomat who saw it and he like wrote about it. I don't know about military though.
All right, Coley, what do you got?
I mean, after this prompt, I immediately went because I was curious. I just typed Irish martial arts.
Boxing.
And naturally, there are three. The three pillars of Irish martial arts, which are boxing, specifically bare knuckle boxing.
Mm-hmm.
Very much boxing that looks like the Notre Dame mascot, like the rolling up your sleeves as you back away from someone. Boxing, which I respect. Wrestling, of course, and these all have Gaelic words, which I am not even going to attempt to pronounce. Gaelic is a martial art, as far as I'm concerned, against just language in general. But the third one, which I think is very funny and like very stereotypical, is stick fighting with shillelagh. Which again, there's another word, cannot say it. But what I found most interesting about the stick fighting is there's no agreed upon size stick. Like there's no standard. It's truly just like, what's the biggest stick you can swing, and let's fucking get to it. It's the most rudimentary of everything we've spoken about so far, but it's probably the most practical in terms of like day-to-day action. Like all these other martial arts, like if you run up on someone like Arian and you get into a bar fight and he just gets on his back and he's like calling you down, like that's fucked up. You didn't see that one coming. Most people are going to square up, and you're either going to grab the closest stick, you're either just going to wrestle him, or you're going to punch him in the fucking face. Those are, as far as I'm concerned, the three tenets of all fight.
Dude, shillelaghs. Am I remembering this correctly? But wasn't there a guy with a shillelagh in Gangs of New York?
Yes.
And that was badass.
The butcher. Yeah. And then he would put a notch on it for every person that he killed.
Yeah. Dude, shillelagh, the whole idea of the shillelagh just like fascinates me, because literally a bunch of dudes with shillelaghs in Ireland made the Roman Empire not want to colonize Ireland. They're like, yeah, we'll do England, but yeah, we're not going any farther north. Like, you see those guys on that island with a bunch of sticks?
They got too many sticks.
They got too many sticks
in Ireland.
They're wild. They got red hair. They're running around. like literally the Roman Empire didn't want to expand because of a bunch of dudes who were just drunk all the time with giant sticks. Actually, I don't even know if they had alcohol yet.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
If Ireland had alcohol before in pre-Roman times.
If I were to guess, like a flow chart of what got invented first, beer or fighting each other with a bunch of sticks to pass the time. I think it's pretty clear that, like, I know which one's the chicken, which one's the egg in this scenario.
Dude, I want to get a shillelagh. Can I expense a shillelagh?
No.
Go to Central Park, get one.
Yeah, you can go get a stick. It's pretty.
Yeah.
I know, but I feel like shillelagh is made from like a Irish tree that has the right knots.
Yeah, in terms of the stick rules, you would feel like there would be an acceptable stick. It's just like if you can pick up the stick, then you can bring it to the stick fight.
PFT, have you? Billy might be the only other one who's ever even heard of it. Have you watched a hurling match?
Yeah. Psycho shit.
Hurling is perhaps the main reason I don't respect lacrosse even as a
Yeah.
concept.
True.
Hurling's for adults. Lacrosse is for cowards named like Tanner and shit like that. Pick up a flat stick. You don't need a net, and use a fucking baseball, and let's just get after it.
I think
that's what hurling's psychotic.
Haling's, I think the ball's harder than that. They play up in
It's very hard.
yeah, they play
No helmets, no face masks.
Oh, of course not.
They play up in Woodlawn.
I'm watching hurling right now. There are definitely helmets and face masks.
Oh, they changed?
They changed it.
What are
Yeah.
they, kids?
No, these seem to be adults.
No, they play up in
upsetting.
Woodlawn, north of the Bronx, and they wear helmets and stuff.
They didn't
think
used to
Donnie-
have face masks.
Never. Every time I've seen it, there's not even anyone who even has ever heard of a helmet
Mhm.
playing.
It's like hockey. You remember how there were like a few guys that held off through like the 80s? I'm pretty sure one guy played in the 90s with no helmet on.
Yeah.
Like it probably should have been something that occurred to them. But they have high sticking rules. In hurling, you're hitting the ball, you're
Yeah.
following through on your swing. People were not wearing face masks or helmets at least as recently as 20 years ago when I started watching it.
The best way I can describe this sport as someone watching 2 minutes of it for the first time is if you combined lacrosse, hockey, football, and basketball, but allowed traveling, and also you can just hit anybody whenever you want, it seems.
It's kind of, I would relate to field hockey, and I'm pretty sure the wickets of Quidditch were inspired
Probably.
by hurling.
Probably.
Have you ever seen people play Quidditch in real life?
Yeah.
It's
It's-
shocking.
What is Quidditch?
Like from
Dude.
the Harry Potter
Harry
movies,
Potter.
and people played in real life.
Never seen
So
it.
Big on
odd.
college campuses.
Yeah. I saw when I was in Boston a couple months ago, I saw kids at Harvard playing it. And I was like, this is what you do at Harvard.
I mean, you can't.
Oh, that's a joke they paid on the internship.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's
But you can't fly.
And you just have a
Correct.
stick between your legs.
you just run
Right.
around on a broom.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah,
That's fake. That's not correct. Most of the sport, I'd argue, is because it's flying.
Correct.
yeah.
I
Okay.
didn't know people really played that
And
shit.
then they
What
have
the
a
fuck?
snitch. Then they have a person who runs out as the snitch that you have to catch.
Yeah, that doesn't count. Like I can catch a person. I can't catch that thing.
All right, so hurling implemented helmets in 2009. Still pretty recent.
Playing goalie in this sport has got to be the worst position in all of sports
Because
to
I
play.
think the ball is
Imagine-
hard as fuck.
Imagine Barry Bonds like pulling up 10 feet from the net and just tossing it up to himself and taking a full swing. And you're standing in goal. Like, no, thank you.
It's definitely one of those games that it's like something you can't pick up. Like watching someone, it's almost like putting an egg on a spoon, the way they play.
Yeah, so I don't understand. Sometimes they carry it on the stick, and then other times they just hold it. I don't understand why you would ever put it on the stick.
I think
Just
you
Not a
can,
big
grab-
rules sport. Not a big rules sport.
I think you can you can grab it and take a couple steps
Okay, that
before
would
you
make
gotta
sense.
hit it with your stick.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's pretty much if you combined all of the sports and just made one sport.
It really is, because there's a net, but then there's also like goalposts. I'm assuming those are of different point values. Then it's like hockey, kind of, but it's also football-ish.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure when they invented hurling, it came out of stick fighting. And all the
Right.
stick fighters were like, look at these pussies that have to use a ball and a net.
Yeah, settle it like adults.
It's-
Just hit each other.
Well, like many sports originally came about, it was probably practicing for war, and war back then was just a bunch of guys stick fighting a bunch of other guys.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, we got to figure out how to practice this so we're not hitting each other. Let's hit a ball.
Yeah, and there seems to be no high sticking rules anywhere.
No, this was something like, I mean, obviously Boston's a very Irish city, so like people's dads would still play, and
Yeah.
like they're just out there like getting drunk and just like seriously injuring one another.
Definitely.
All right, stick fighting.
I think there was a time where they found that hurling clubs in the United States were secretly covers for funding the IRA overseas.
Probably.
Like the same,
Probably.
like the FBI was tracking, and they're like, how are these guys collecting donations? Where's this all happening? He's like, oh, hurling clubs.
Yeah, they're not doing a very good job of hiding. That would be my number one suspicion if I was trying to track down who is first I would go to a Dropkick Murphy show, and then I'd
Mhm.
just arrest everybody in the pit, and then secondly I'd observe hurling
Dude,
clubs.
they hand out shillelaghs at Dropkick Murphy's shows.
Do they?
Probably.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
Have Billy specifically? Have you found your way into IRA TikTok?
Yes, with the
That's
wearing
perhaps the best corner of the internet because
Oh.
they've incorporated Philly, not drill music. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what they consider that type of rap coming out of Philly, but they've incorporated that into their how to place bombs under cars tutorial videos, and it's truly the best matchup on the internet.
Well, I mean, there's Ukrainian videos of like very attractive Ukrainian female soldiers giving instructions on how to use Russian tanks. Like at one point she's like, "It's very cold. This is how you turn the heat on." It's like giving the full instruction.
That's
Pound
awesome.
pound for pound, I might put the IRA up against any group of troops. Just pound for pound.
The IRA's been doing what Ukraine's been doing for like hundreds of years.
Yeah, I mean, IRA not worried about the size or stature of what you've got going on.
Yeah.
All right, Aaron, what do you got? You want to do jiu-jitsu?
Yeah. So jiu-jitsu has roots in Japan. So I wrote down a whole bunch of shit because it's actually fascinating. It has a lot to do with our current culture. In the late 19th century, Japan, when Japan started getting like more westernized and they started like getting more militarized, like they kind of did away with the traditional like samurai and the samurai warrior. It had more militarized soldiers. Aristocrats, they employed like martial art instructors that would train in archery, sword fighting, and unarmed combat, which would eventually end up being jiu-jitsu. It referred to as that. And there was a dude by the name of Jigoro Kano. He was born in 1860, grew up in the midst of all those changes. And he was like from a wealthy family, but he was like soft, so he kept getting picked on and shit. And he ended up like seeking out ways to like defend himself. And like I said, the hand-to-hand combat, samurai, that kind of stuff was fading out. But he found like a bunch of people in a bunch of different areas that would have different styles and different ways of teaching and training. And so he just kind of fell in love with the entirety of it. And he realized that after a while, it's like, this is Japanese culture that needs to be preserved. And so he kind of just learned, he took what he felt like he needed to keep, and he discarded what he didn't feel like he needed to keep. And in 1882, he established Kodokan Judo. And it was like focused on physical education and intellectual training, and the etymology of judo meaning the gentle way. And that's the biggest thing when I first got into jiu-jitsu. What they taught you was, my professor, what they call them professors, is, and this is Brazilian jiu-jitsu, so they call it BJJ. So I started BJJ. At this time, it's just jiu-jitsu, and I'll get into the history of that in a second. But when I first started training, that's what he was like. They're all super cool people, man, for the most part. And he was like, "Yo, this is like not. I mean, it's a sport and it's fun." He's like, "But this is a way of life. It's your diet. It's how you treat people. It's how you treat your body. Yada yada yada." And that's what really drew me to it in a different way than anything I've ever done. Because I was just looking for something else outside of lifting weights and running to keep in shape after football. And they were just like really adamant about it. It's like, it's a lifestyle. And I really fell in love with it. So after he opened up, that dude opened in 18, he opened the Kodokan Judo. They focused on like throwing techniques, which is like throwing people to the ground, and grappling, which is the core and the crux of jiu-jitsu today. So over the next like 5 decades, Japan recognized it actually as a national sport. And it became like a big part of their education system. And as it grew, they started exporting all the techniques all across the world. Like, so people would leave Japan and go to other places. Independently, obviously, hand-to-hand combat everywhere. Everybody had their own styles and techniques. There's like in Brazil, they had this one called capoeira, which is like a dance and a acrobatic movement. It's like different kind of feel. My homie trains it, but I could whoop his ass. In Brazil, there was these circuses that had wrestling and boxing in various forms, like combat competitions. There was a Japanese dude by the name of Sato Miyako. And I'm gonna tell you why all of this is important. This is why this is fascinating, though, because it's like there's a dude named Sato Miyako. He came to Rio de Janeiro and he trained in jiu-jitsu from Japan, and he would try to find work at a circus, and he ended up asking people to come fight me, get money, and he used to beat everybody. But he ended up taking an L and dipping. There was no evidence that he trained under Kodokan, the dude that started it in Japan. Later on in 1913, there's a dude named Mitsuyo Maeda. Mitsuyo Maeda. Yeah, I'm butchering this shit. Apologies. He actually trained at Kodokan, and he was like one of the top students. He taught judo and he focused on grappling as well. He traveled to a bunch of different countries. He was just trying to fight anybody to show him that he would whoop him. He had a nickname named Konda Koma, which is the Count Combat. I guess he was that dude. Anyway, he ended up in Brazil, and he did what Miyako did and trying to find work in one of those circuses, and he was offering money to anybody who could beat him. So much so he was offering $500 to anybody who could last 15 minutes. In 1920, when he started getting washed, he opened up a school. His career left like this big impression on Brazil, and it started to get like popular. And so they started training people with the whoop. And this is where the history gets kind of muddied, right, into the modern times of Brazilian jiu-jitsu. There's a dude by the name of Carlos Gracie. Now, if you know anything about jiu-jitsu and really UFC and MMA, the Gracie family is like royalty, and this is the start of it, right? Carlos Gracie said he was living in Belém, where Medea opened up his school, and he said he was one of the first ones to sign up, and he trained with them for like 3 years. He developed fundamental judo skills, and kind of took it from there. There's a jiu-jitsu historian named Roberto Pereira who says he wasn't even in Belém the entire 3-year period that Carlos claimed he was. That Konakama wasn't in the years that Carlos claimed he was. So he was saying Carlos most likely learned from a dude named Delani Puris dos Rias. Fucking all these names up. But he was a student of Mitsuyo Medea. And so it gets muddy. There's a lot of discrepancy amongst jiu-jitsu purists. But anyway, in like around 1930, the Gracie family started teaching jiu-jitsu like all over Rio. And he did it like with his 5 brothers. And it peaked like when in 1930s, like with the circuses, it started becoming bigger. Like it was like independent, like it was a sport, a spectator sport, and people started to come to pay and watch it. The balls started getting a little bigger, and they started like really feeling the bravado, the entire thing. And they developed rules called luta vir, which allowed mostly grappling and holds but no striking. And then in the mid 30s, there was this thing called veletito, which is like anything goes, and that's the modern day MMA rules, but with a little more twist to it. Like you can strike, you can do whatever. The Gracies really emphasized like the ground game and the guard. That's what they're really famous for. And so Carlos was really great at marketing. And there's a whole like deeper history. That was just like rough. I know I was like hella talking, but like that's just like the rough history of it. There's like it goes even deeper. But to bring it back to the modern times, in 1993 there was like this UFC championship where cats was like the Gracies was basically challenging everybody in the 80s and like in the 90s. Like they would have videotapes, and you can like Google them on YouTube or whatever the case may be. They would just invite people over to their spot and be like, "Yo, we'll whoop you. I don't know who it is, where it is, we'll whoop you." And then they was doing it, and so much so that it got so much attention that the hype around it had this like competition set up to where it's like any martial arts, it don't matter what it is, we'll whoop you. And so the Gracies had got their smallest dude, I forget his name, I think it was Helio, maybe Helio. He got the smallest dude to show like our littlest dude could whoop any of these big dudes. And so like the first UFC event, and you can watch this on YouTube, the first UFC event was like literally the smallest Gracie fucking up this like 500-pound dude. And so different disciplines, dudes from Muay Thai, Sumo, karate, and that was like the first UFC event. And he ended up winning the entire thing, which brought Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to the forefront, and like they blew up after that, and they became like immortalized. And so, like I said, there's so much more history to it. Like Hickson Gracie is like one of the greatest of all time. That's really what made me fall in love with it, was like watching Hickson Gracie. But like there's a huge, and there's like spin-offs, like there's 10 Planet, which is like you get into Eddie Bravo. He's a flat earther, Joe Rogan's dude, but like he's like nice. Like he was nice at jiu-jitsu, and like was one of the pioneers of what do they call it? The rubber guard, which is very effective jiu-jitsu move. So it's a really dope practice. I love it. I think it's what should be taught to literally like our police academy, to anybody trying to de-escalate a situation, because they really teach you how to hold people without killing them. You could break limbs, you could hold limbs, you can make people tap, like you can make them pass out. They teach you these things. But it's more like a self-defense. It's not aggressive. So like I just love the shit, and the history is fascinating. If you ever get a chance to check it out, it's fire.
If you watch jiu-jitsu, that's the style of fighting where, more so than any other, the guy who ends up winning always looks like he's losing at some point. Like when they get down on the ground and like the limbs are all over, it's like, oh, that guy's in trouble on the bottom. Oh no, wait, he's got like this crazy ass hold on the guy's leg. He's about to snap his ankle off.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu. What's crazy about jiu-jitsu is you all had like that wrestler friend, right? Who like was always into wrestling, and then like either wrestled in college but now that's like become a huge outlet for your wrestler friend who's now like doing that like 3 times a week. Now that's more mainstream.
Yeah, they get into jiu-jitsu as a
a guy like KB.
Version.
Yeah,
jiu-jitsu is crazy, and I like watching jiu-jitsu tournaments where it's like the low contact, like the not necessarily Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but there's like no striking involved whatsoever, and it's just guys like grappling and twisting each other over until one guy gets another dude in a situation where he has to tap. And there's a lot of thinking that goes into it.
No, that's what they say. It's like a chess match with your body. Because when I first got there, this is what really drew me to it. There was a fucking 16-year-old kid, dog, who probably weighed like 140 pounds, and he made me tap. He choked me the fuck out, and I was like, yo, I gotta learn, because this is wild. I'm talking about, he's 16, little dude. He was like, I made Arian Foster tap. He was like, all hype. I was like, you did, dog, you got me. But one of the most beautiful quotes I had, and this is why they say it's like more, it's like an intellectual practice as well. One of the most beautiful quotes he said was like, he's like, jiu-jitsu is it's the art of swimming, and the floor is your ocean, and the majority of people don't know how to swim.
Yeah,
it's just a beautiful way to think about it, and that's exactly right. It's like Coley was talking about. It's like I'm and everybody has different styles, right? You kind of like learn your own style once you practice for a while. Like my style is I fight the best on my back, and what they call a guard. Like I love, so like if I find myself on my back in a fight, I'm the most comfortable there. Like I will, like if you don't know what you're doing, like you just don't have a shot. Like you're gonna, like I can really hurt somebody. And that's what's beautiful about that sport, man.
That's what I love when people talk about jiu-jitsu. They're like, yeah, I was rolling. Like, oh, we were rolling.
Yeah, they call it rolling. You want to roll?
Yeah, you want to roll?
You want to roll?
That sounds so fucking cool.
Yeah, it's really dope, man.
The thing about jiu-jitsu, and like I want to try it, but I know that like it's to take that first step into it, it's a big leap, and that like I couldn't do it casually a couple times. Where
it's addicting.
Like, yeah.
It's addicting because it's something that it's like you become a student.
Yeah.
It's not like I think that's what separates martial arts. Was like, you know, a lot of people will go boxing, and that's also a martial art as well. But it's not like just a casual martial arts. Aren't like a casual sport that you just do to work out. It's something that you become a student of, and you learn a lot about yourself, honestly, and you learn how to protect yourself in really interesting ways that people have been practicing for like thousands of years. It's really dope,
and it's also very humbling. Very humbling.
Yeah. Like tap. These niggas 145 tapping me out, dog. I was like, what the fuck?
Dude, the getting choked out part, that, because I don't know, if I can't breathe, I bug out.
Just tap, bro.
Yeah.
Let go.
That's crazy. But like,
it's not a fight to the death.
But you get. But the thing is, someone who like doesn't like the idea of anyone being around my neck and choking me out, Like,
Don't get tapped.
yeah,
Get better, yeah.
yeah, but
Don't
like
get
I
tapped.
wouldn't do that recreationally. Like boxing, like getting hit in the face with gloves on isn't that
I like that
bad.
shit.
Well, yeah, that's kind of like that's a little more like banging. You're like banging, getting hit. I'll tell you, getting hit with like bare knuckle fighting. Like one time I got hit in the face.
Irish style.
Bare,
yes.
yeah, dude, your face hurts for months. I remember getting punched in the face once, and it hurt for the whole summer. Like
You
just like
broke something. You got
yeah,
something broke.
it was like my orbital bone. I probably, but it was just like you feel it forever.
Arian, have you ever made somebody not made somebody tap, but like had somebody in a hold, and you popped something on them?
No. I've had something almost pop on me. Usually and that's like you have to have a lot of body awareness. Like I've seen people pass out because their ego, right? They're like, I'm not gonna tap, and you pass the fuck out. Like I don't have no ego. Like when that dude was 145 and he's about to tap me out, man, I'm tapping. I'm just not that crucial. I don't know what I'm doing on this mat right now. But like over the time, what's really dope is you start to understand like somebody who knows what they're doing are thinking like 4 or 5 moves ahead of you,
Yeah,
and rather than just reacting
Chess.
to you, and that's fucking fire. And that's when it becomes an art form and not necessarily just like combat.
that's with like boxing. You like watch other people's moves, and then sometimes when you're fighting someone who's like really sparring, they can tell what you're gonna do even before you think about what. That's like
Yep.
that's the second level. But
Do you get tired?
Yeah, it's very because when we roll for like I think the rounds are maybe 7-8 minutes. I forget.
Wow.
Because the pandemic, it's like 7-8 minutes, and so you're literally just grappling. It's like you'll be like 5 minutes in. A lot of times you're just sitting there and like staring at each other, catching each other's breath, and then somebody goes and you got to go again because you don't want to get tapped out. And so it's fire, man.
it's usually 7-8 minute rounds.
I think it's like 7 or 8 minute rounds. Yeah.
How if you were like
Oh, man. Go
if
ahead.
you're gonna do it recreationally, like I hit the bag, I do 10 1-minute rounds, and that usually gets me a pretty good workout because I'm going like rough and rowdy training, which is you try to throw as many punches as you can in a minute. And like that gets me like that can be a workout in itself. Like my whoop goes to 10, like that's a decent one. How like if you were to do a casual jiu-jitsu, let's say it's a Sunday, you're hungover and you're like, I just need to get a sweat going. Like, is there a casual way to do it, or you're committed to like shit ton of rolling?
It depends on what they have different classes. So a lot of times they'll have something where they'll teach like 3 or 4 specific moves throughout one class, and that is the class. And you'll roll like maybe once or twice at the end of the class, like for 5 minutes, something like that. But then they have like open rolls where you go and it's just the entire time you just go. Somebody picks you, like you want to roll, and you roll, and you just the whole time. That's when it becomes like I remember being like, "Yo, I couldn't breathe." I was like, "All right, pick somebody else." I'm saying that.
I might need you to get me into jiu-jitsu.
I got you, bro. We'll go to a class for next time I'm in New York. It's fun as shit, dog.
Because I need to
matter
get
of fact,
into it.
dude, it's fire. The dude that he's not. When I first got there, he was a brown belt.
Yeah.
And he always would beat my ass. Like, and he was 200 pounds, maybe 5'8", bro.
Yeah.
Whoop my ass. I've never even got close. He's black belt now. He's actually just won the world championships in no gi and gi. Yeah, so he's like one of the best in the world. Pedro Marino. Shout out to my guy. That's my dude.
What do you think about gi versus no gi? Gi. So for everyone listening, gi is the robes they wear, right? I'm correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's the discrepancy between gi no gi?
So gi is like just very traditional, right? And that's more so to represent the traditional judo where it came from in Japan. But also like how they teach you in Brazilian jiu-jitsu now, it's like if somebody has a coat on or a shirt on, right? It teaches you how to grab somebody, where to grab somebody, how to pull them down, use what they're wearing as leverage against them to get them on the ground. No gi is a lot harder because it's all about grip. You don't have any grips, and so they teach you how to grip like necks and wrists and that's really good in case like somebody takes somebody's shirt off or the shirt rips or whatever the case may be. And so Brazilian jiu-jitsu was Japanese traditional jiu-jitsu was more so predicated from the gi and like was a sport, and it was for like throws and stuff like that. Brazilian jiu-jitsu was more made from like street fighting, and like if you get yourself in a fight, this is how you get up out of it.
I mean, I heard like you go with the gi and you end up choked out with your own gi, and you're just like,
Oh yeah,
you're just
I
so
know.
out of. Yeah, you're like,
I know a whole bunch of holes where I could choke people out with their gi.
yeah, that's like wild to me that like they using your own clothes against you. That's
Mhm.
honestly the only thing I can compare it to is in hockey when they like take their sweater, as they say, and they put it up over their face when they're fighting, so they can't see.
Yeah. Yeah, I seen this one meme one time. It's hilarious. It's like it's just some dude, like random like dude driving in a car with his glasses on. It's like me driving at 8 a.m. to my job being normal, and then he's driving. It's like me driving to my jiu-jitsu class, learning how to choke somebody out and possibly kill them. That shit crazy, but it is. It's like it's dead, and to me, that's the biggest thing it did for me was like self-confidence. Was like I thought I could fight before I took jiu-jitsu. I really thought I could hold my own, so I had this false sense of confidence.
Yeah.
And when I took jiu-jitsu and I know it on a deeper level, I realized now that I can fight, and my confidence is higher, but it's more reserved because it's not like I don't want to use this on anybody because it's like I could really hurt somebody, and so I know how to de-escalate more than I did before, where I was like I would just try to punch somebody and grab them by the back, but now I know how to grab somebody in a way that disarms them and de-escalates the situation until
like
Karen calls the cop.
Yeah, from a philosophical standpoint, it's kind of like I really want to get into jiu-jitsu, but I know that it's a place where I'm very insecure, like I'm very vulnerable. So psychologically, I don't want to go roll because I know I'm going to get tapped out in 2 seconds. But I just need to dive into it.
That's ego, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm a former all-pro running back, dog, like millionaire. Got tapped out by some 16-year-old who weighs 145, and I couldn't care. Like it was a good experience, a learning experience for me because I was like, God, I learned from this little dude.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I ended up, you make a lot of really good friends, a lot of good people, dog, and it's rarely. It was one time, but he wasn't a regular. I only saw him like maybe twice, and so the majority of people are just like they roll. You learn. Like I roll with females, like, right, and obviously there's a big discrepancy, but I roll with females, and I'm not trying to kill them, right? It's just like you just practice technique. Then it's what they call flow. Like you'll just flow, right? You just work on that stuff like that. There was only one time I was like, I'm gonna fight this nigga, bro. This dude was just doing everything he could to try to he knew who he was going against. He was just doing it. He was just aggressively, and I was like, fam, you got to stop that shit. But it's like, that was my only experience. Everybody else, super cool. Everybody was friendly as hell. Like, made a lot of good friends, though. It's a really dope experience.
What's that combat jiu-jitsu where you can like slap? You know what I'm talking about? Sometimes you see the videos of you're not allowed to punch, but you're like allowed to like open hand hit.
One of my favorite jiu-jitsu clips of all time was that Oklahoma guy fight in the bathroom. You remember the one that went viral last year?
Oh, yeah. That wasn't jiu-jitsu. That was straight MMA.
No, he went jiu-jitsu on him. He did like the slap to the ear to disorientate him, like hit him again in the face, and then got behind him and took him down.
That was a slap punch.
Yeah.
Well, say originally, like, and so that's how they teach you, right? Especially, there are formal jiu-jitsu teaching where it's like they teach you just competition rules, but then they also teach you like this was developed to fight.
Yeah.
And so like when you start getting away from like the formal learning and you go to other like classes, they'll teach you how to fight. And when you see like some of those videos of like dudes getting picked on and they fall back and they cross their legs and they wrap their legs around you, like they know what they're doing. Like don't mess with them.
That's a fun.
I just tell people, bro, if you get in an argument with somebody and they have cauliflower ear, walk away.
I actually, dude,
walk away, dog. Walk away.
This weekend, I met this like 40-year-old dude, in a bar, and he was a cauliflower ear guy, and I was talking to him about, because I could tell that he'd seen some shit. He does jujitsu, and I was talking to him, and you can tell that he's like a grappler. So he's the type of guy that like once you start talking with him, he just gets really handsy. And he's like grabbing your wrist. You know what I'm talking about? Like they grab your wrist and you're like, and I'm like, yeah, I know what you're doing. Like you're like, that's like, you're gaining
asserting
wrist
dominance.
Controls. Yeah, you're asserting dominance.
Billy
like
got dog walked by somebody.
No,
in the
he
bar,
was a shorter guy. No, he was a good friend. He was a shorter guy. So I was like, you're walking in here, and the first thing you see me is like, I can kick your fucking ass because you do jujitsu. And he's like, yeah, exactly. He was a cool guy. Shout out Dan. He has no idea what I do. So
does not sound like.
Yeah.
Handsy Dan.
No, it was chill. He's a
Handsy
grappler.
Dan.
It was chill. We are just guys being dudes.
You're grappling in a bar.
Yeah.
Handsy Dan's the grappler.
No, actually, his name isn't Dan, so he's still. But anyway, we had a
Yeah.
getting handsy with the dude.
I was gonna say that so the martial art that I was gonna bring up, Arian alluded to, was capoeira, which is a really interesting type of martial arts. It's dance fighting. So it comes from Brazil, and it can be both a form of martial arts like violence, but it can also just be like stuff that they do in showcases and not necessarily like two guys fighting each other. It's just like a dance performance that they do based around martial arts. But the history of it is interesting because it was started on plantations by slaves in Brazil. And they weren't, there were all sorts of rules that they had. You probably heard of some of the ones in the United States where it's like you could not know how to read if you were a slave. If they caught you reading, you were going to be punished because they didn't want you to get too intellectually smart. Maybe you'd pick up a Bible and realize that some of the stuff that they were telling you was in the Bible was total bullshit. But in Brazil, they took that to a different level where they would teach each other how to fight, but they would do it in a rhythmic fashion. So when the guards would come by, or when the owners would come by, they would just act like they were dancing the entire time. It was like one of those, like, flip a switch, act straight, everybody act cool. We're not fighting. We're actually just dancing. And so it became a form of martial arts that was based around rhythm. And you can see when people practice it, like there's all these beats that they're taking. Everything's on rhythm. But when it's practiced, it can look ridiculous, if especially if somebody's not very good at it and they do like the dancing thing and then they just get their ass kicked and knocked out immediately. Like, well, that was the worst form of martial arts ever. But there's some guys that are really good at it that are able to do these like crazy acrobatic style like spins where they're rotating on one foot, throwing roundhouse kicks with one foot, and then following up with their back fist on the other. And when you get knocked out by a dude that's dancing as he knocks you out, that's way worse, I think, than getting knocked out by a punch or getting tapped out. When the dude that's actually breaking your jaw is also like tap dancing around you while he's doing it. Aaron, you ever gone to like a capoeira fight?
Oh, my homeboy took it though, and he was telling me about it, and I actually took him to my jiu-jitsu class. But it's like beautiful, and that's what I found. I didn't know the origins of it until I researched the history of jiu-jitsu, and they were saying one of the dudes was fighting Buddy, and he said it came from slave plantations. That's crazy how a lot of these martial arts are kind of like cousins almost.
Yeah, capoeira is crazy. If you watch like some clips on some great capoeira knockouts, it's something that you should probably not try in a fight unless you're very, very experienced at, because you just look like a fool if you were just dancing. I bet a lot of people try capoeira, get like moderately good at it, and then try to incorporate it into the real world and get their ass kicked. You got to blend it with something. You got to blend it with something like a little more violent.
It was like the class Mo Sislak was teaching at the Springfield Annex, where he would break dance and then do a backflip and then just start blasting with a shotgun.
Yeah. I don't think I would ever be good at capoeira. It looks a little bit too rhythmic for me. I think of all the
You ain't got no rhythm, dog.
not
Wait,
enough
but
to do
is
this.
Do they actually use it as a practical fighting style? I thought it was more performance based.
It is performance, but there are some dudes that practice capoeira that have gone on to compete in MMA.
Listen, we're talking about cauliflower here. If some gentleman or lady is ready to fight you at a bar and they start dancing first, that's also someone you do not want to tangle with. I promise you.
It probably de-escalates it. If I saw somebody just start dancing, I'd be like, "That's pretty
But
cool."
that's how they get you. They're like, "Oh, dancing, everything's fine." Bam.
Then they attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some great capoeira knockouts if you want to look it up on YouTube.
Hmm.
Just like knockouts that you would never see. A guy that, you know what it looks like? The dudes that are practicing capoeira in an actual MMA fight, they look like they think they're superheroes. Because they're like
Yeah,
bounding all over
backflipping.
the place and they're doing these exaggerated leaps and stuff. It's very cool to watch, but also I feel like you have to be really, really good at it in
Yeah,
order
like-
to compete against somebody.
What's the New Zealand? Is it the haka?
The haka,
Oh
yeah.
the war dance.
Yeah, like any war dance usually has me pretty on edge. Like that would rattle me for sure. It usually doesn't work like when we play New Zealand and in the Olympics in basketball. Like it's not that intimidating then. But if we're about to throw hands, like yeah, I can see that being intimidating.
It's intimidating. They just not good. Like,
yeah, they tip off the ball, rifle one off the backboard. It's like, all right, well, the dance, you died from the dance. You shouldn't have danced.
But like during that, you could tell like every time, like people like, yo, that shit fire, whatever it is. But then, you know, the whistle blowing, like, oh, y'all suck.
I mean,
I'm LeBron James. I don't give a fuck what dance you just
y'all
did.
are ass.
It's intimidating as fuck on a rugby field, though.
yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
We used to play against some teams in Texas that were largely composed of guys from the Pacific Islands, and they would do a haka before the game, and it was scary because they're like big dudes, and they get angry when they do the haka, and it's like, yeah, okay, I'm second guessing my choice to be here right now. I got to see it up close at USA versus New Zealand at FedEx Field back in October.
Oh wow.
And so I was down like on the field level watching the haka. It's scary as hell.
You know what's the thing about the haka? If the craziest thing about the haka, and I guess in the basketball perspective, it didn't really, but they back it up every single time when it comes to football and rugby.
Do they do it like in chess? Where
They
is it
do it in
acceptable to do the haka?
So like I saw a couple.
They need to be
times-
more judicious about who gets to do the haka. 'Cause
Yeah, like
I
the
agree.
basketball team shouldn't be allowed to do the haka. I saw the haka done to like for like a headmaster of an all boys school in I think New Zealand. He was like retiring, and like the whole like school did the haka to send him off, and that was pretty hype. That was a video.
The thing is, like, New Zealand's decent at basketball against the rest of the world, so I don't want to strip it from them entirely. It's just when you play us, like,
maybe they shouldn't bring it. Like,
do they do it in hockey? They have a
I don't
hockey
think they
there's
team.
no
have
chance
hockey.
they play hockey.
You can't do it on ice. Do the
well,
haka
I
on
mean,
ice.
New Zealand, that's getting south enough that it starts to get cold. So maybe
get
we got
that.
some
Most of the world just doesn't play hockey.
New Zealand ice hockey. Well, they actually probably play field hockey.
Oh no, I've got one. I've got an ice hockey haka.
Oh,
yes.
really?
Mm-hmm.
They win.
Gonna have to check this one out.
They were playing
Yeah, I think-
Iceland. I would assume not.
Oh, they got shit pumped.
And the Iceland team is just standing at the red line, kind of looking at them like, are we supposed to like pay our respects while they do this?
Do we do
Like,
it back at them? Like,
This is
Like, what are they like? The thing about the haka is that no one's allowed to no one has a response for it.
no.
Actually, when
if you do, it would be so forced. That shit fire. It's
Yeah.
original. You just gotta take it. That's way cooler than our pregame ritual. It is what it is. Y'all
Yeah.
got it.
I think
Now Overwatch.
didn't like two teams do the haka against each other? Like Fiji played.
Yeah, when the two teams.
New Zealand,
That's-
wasn't it?
Yeah, that's hype. That
That shit
I
fire.
want to pull that. I want to pull that up later.
At that point, I think they either have to fight or kiss. Like, you can't play whatever sport you were supposed
Yeah,
to play.
you-
after
like
that.
Fiji and New Zealand aren't allowed to play a rugby game against each other. They have to do straight up old-fashioned warfare.
There were I was talking to that guy Tunde, the South African rugby player, the Beast.
Oh yeah.
He's like a goat, and I was asking him about his response to the haka and what he would do when they were doing it, because there's no rule that says that you have to like stand there at midfield
Yeah, and
and
get
just and let it
dressed.
and let another
That's
man
the worst
haka in your
part.
face. He was like, no, I wouldn't pay attention. I would just continue on my warm ups and get stretched and all that stuff on my own. Some teams link arms and they just stand at midfield and just take a haka to the face. There's no need for that. I need to put that out of my sight. Just like don't even pay attention to it. I'll be like Evan McPherson or Robbie Gold, just like kicking field goals through the haka.
I think that's when you get killed.
Yeah, probably.
But I thought it was like a form of respect. I thought it was them like summoning their ancestors or something like that, and kind of just like paying respect to the whole process. I could be wrong. I don't know, but that's what I thought.
It is, yeah. It's a sign of respect to their ancestors and like a tribute to the old warriors that came before them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like those are your warriors. I don't need to stand there and just like have.
You're a warrior.
Yeah.
I mean, you could.
My Irish bare knuckle fighting ancestors. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Are you saying that you're suggesting taking a knee during the haka?
All I'm saying is like, look how close they can get to you in the haka. If you stand at midfield.
No. We ain't gonna all lives matter convolute that shit. That was a form of respect too, player.
I know, but like if you did, would people get angry?
If you what?
Took a
If
knee.
you took a knee?
during
Not
the
if you
haka.
explain why.
I
you're
think
doing
that that might be a good way to like to take away the haka's juice, take away their momentum. Like, how do you defend against the haka?
You don't. You just don't watch it.
By the way, New
If you're
Zealand
defending. I would want to experience it. I would love to watch that shit live.
Oh yeah.
New Zealand beat Iceland 6-5 in that hockey game. By the way,
Damn.
What?
Oh, yeah, how could that? I'm with him. I'm riding with him.
You know what their New Zealand national team is called in hockey?
Aren't
So the rugby team is called
All
the All
Blacks.
Blacks. Their basketball team, they call them the Tall Blacks. I'm serious. Their
Yeah,
ice
that
hockey,
doesn't work against USA.
I'm gonna need a source for that, dog.
the ice
For
hockey
real?
team is called the Ice Blacks. That's a pretty cool name.
it's on
Why?
nz.basketball, which is their official like national team's website. Says Tall Blacks.
Yeah, they're the Tall Blacks.
That's crazy. What?
I think that might just be what they call basketball, which is problematic.
But
That's-
how do you stomp
It's a
in ice
trash
skates?
name.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's not the same sound.
because you can't make the sound.
But you have the pads which make the louder slapping sounds. That's
Mhm.
the Loki. The most intimidating part of the haka is when they slap their thighs, and it just makes it sound like a gunshot because they're all hitting their bare thighs at the same time. Very scary.
And
I
also,
don't know if
like,
y'all did this. I was gonna say I don't know if y'all did this with like high school football. I played Sumo. Or I played high school football. It was like before the game, like everybody would have like a little tap
Oh,
joint
yeah.
that was fire.
Mhm.
When that took a lot of musical like the actual padding, the coordination, like of
Our,
'cause there's-
our squad didn't have any trouble with that part, man.
No, no. Because
Long Island, a little different.
if you mess it up, like, but I remember there was one viral video where like a whole team started doing it and like really did basically a whole like musical number
Yeah, we
in
ready.
the stretch
I
line.
still
Not
remember
that.
mine.
Yeah, you know
The
some
whole squad doing that shit hard.
yeah some
I think I
teams just
remember
did the
mine.
one like
Mine was
ready
Let
down,
me check it out. Let me check it.
and then you just go down
right.
like some simple
You did.
stuff.
You did the We Will Rock You, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah, we did the We Will Rock You. Like then we'd play teams that had way better like ones where they did like a whole musical number, and we're just like shit.
ours
Who's
was
that team?
This
That
is
was ours.
interesting.
This
Yeah.
is great.
I would be willing to
Y'all
bet.
lost by 40.
I would be willing to
I mean,
bet.
I've seen Remember the Titans. We weren't that good.
I'd be willing to bet there's a strong correlation between the intricacy of a team's pregame rhythmic routine and the score of the games.
In what?
See, who's that?
in what
who's that
direction?
team down south that comes out to? They have like the tiger cage that they like wheel in and they break through that.
Oh, the hog.
Is this a high school?
Yeah, it's a high school.
Oh.
They come out to see murder or see murder. The name of a song I cannot say.
Appreciate you correcting yourself, man. Mispronunciation.
No hard R on see murder.
Out of respect.
The
But they come
Oh,
out to
are you
that and
talking
they've got like a full jail, like,
Yeah.
that they call, I believe they call it the tiger pin, and they like they're like tearing it down.
Yeah,
like a
the
zombie
Purge.
apocalypse. I'm
They
like,
play the Purge music, right?
I don't know that I've seen that.
I've seen it. There's
I
one.
think they play that at the beginning and then it goes
Yeah,
into
the siren.
yeah.
Like but then there's
There's another one where the high school team brings out their offensive lineman
in a hog.
in a
Yeah.
hog carrier.
Yeah,
and they
that's
just
awesome.
release him. That's pretty cool.
They released the
that's
hog.
that's guys being dudes. That
Yeah.
has nothing to do with intimidation.
Well, you bring out the hogs.
There's
No,
one,
I
'Cause
get
they
it.
had
I
some
love
big
it, but-
boys. They had some big boys on that
Oh, of
team.
course.
there's
yeah.
one team that comes out in the MAC. I forget which one it is, but they just
Eastern Michigan.
Eastern Michigan. They've got the wall of cinder blocks, and then a couple guys with sledgehammers, and they just like bash the cinder blocks, and then they just all run over the blocks and run out into the field.
Yeah.
Oh, I found what Coley's talking about. Yeah, so it says the tiger cage. There's dudes hanging off the top of
Yeah,
it,
That's, yeah.
and they're just all like they're in a, and then they come out.
Yeah, they're ready. I think whatever game went viral the first time they did it, I actually think they lost, but I'm pretty sure they're like a good team outside. of it.
Yeah. I think they played like IMG or one of those like
Something like that.
fish,
Yeah.
not Bishop Sycamore, but like a
Bishop
real
Gorman
bishop.
is who
yeah.
you're
A
thinking
real
of.
fake school, yeah.
Yeah, a real.
All right, let's get into our next bit of mixed martial arts, urban survival training this time. This is going to be Dale Brown. Dale Brown is a guy from Detroit Urban Survival Training. You've seen him online. You've seen the videos. He's probably the hardest dude in the world. You'll hear him talk about it.
That guy should be in you. They should. Why isn't he going to Ukraine?
Good point, Billy. Good
Should've
point.
asked him
We
that.
should have asked him about that. Before we get to Dale, though, I want to talk to you guys about a new sponsor. New sponsor, Masterworks. The markets have been really trippy the last few months. There's volatility, inflation. Just means that there's probably never been a better time to diversify your portfolio and reevaluate risk. And you know how some of the rich people on earth allocate up to 10 to 30% of their wealth? Blue chip art. They get art, and that's trippy. But while blue chip used to be largely inaccessible for most investors, Masterworks is changing all that. The first and only startup allowing everyone to invest in paintings by iconic artists like Picasso, Banksy, and Basquiat without spending millions. You can join the art investing community today. Get priority access to their latest offerings at Masterworks.art/macro. Check it out right now. It's cool. If you've ever thought about investing in art, this is the easiest way to do it. Masterworks.com. Masterworks.art. That's Masterworks.art/macro. Masterworks.art/macro. See important disclaimers at Masterworks.art/disclaimers. Now here's Dale Brown. Okay, we now welcome on a very special guest, maybe my favorite guest that we've had so far on Macrodosing. No disrespect to Brace and the guy from the FBI that also hunts UFOs. But this is, you've seen him. He really needs no introduction. It's Dale Brown. He is Commander Brown, from Detroit Urban Survival Training. You run the Threat Management Center at Detroit Urban Survival Training. You can find him on Cameo as well. Or if you want to go train with him, he is currently accepting new clients. Are they clients or are they
Trainees.
Students.
New
Awesome.
students up at the Dust Center. So first of all, thank you very much for joining us. We're glad that you're here. I was hoping that maybe we could just start off by having you walk us through your history, where you come from, why you decided to go down this line of work. And if you haven't followed him on social media, he's a must follow. You need to go follow their Instagram account right now. He's gone viral hundreds of times. It feels like you can't help but see his face. But can you just walk us through how you got to where you are today?
Well, I started in Detroit, just wanting to teach people how to defend themselves legally. So I thought, after training in martial arts, as a kid and a young adult, I thought, why are we not learning the law with our tactics, right? So I was in the military. I was a private investigator when I got in the military, and I was always a firearms enthusiast. And with the firearms and knives and baton and all the different types of training that I participated in, I thought it was interesting. None of the schools actually blended all the weapons together, and none of them took into account law. So I thought, why don't we as civilians have the chance to attend a school that would teach us how to fight standing up, fight on the ground, fight multiple aggressors, fight with a baton, a pistol, a shotgun, a rifle, a knife, fight with environmental weapons, but fight with regular clothes on, meaning our shoes, something close to what you normally wear, and then do it legally. Why is there no law? Why is there no integration of weapons? We live in the United States where there's lots of weapons. And so why is there not a school I can go to where there'd be lots of weapons training, and included with that would be the legal use of force as a civilian that I could use to protect myself, my family, and others. And so that's what I created, was a school so you could actually legally protect yourself. And that's what I started in 1994, teaching in parks. I didn't have any money, so I was teaching wherever I could. YMCA, Eclecticon was the name of the system that I created. Eclectic, meaning British styles, and Kayan is Japanese suffix, which means system, or place or way. And essentially, I thought we need, as civilians, a way to study and train in tactics and legally be able to defend ourselves. So that was my first endeavor.
Have you ever been in a situation personally where you've had to disarm a would-be assailant?
Absolutely. So we're in Detroit. and we protect people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I started off with a dog and a rifle on the east side of Detroit, and I had to stop murders and home invasions, and that's how I got started as a protective service organization. So when I first started, it was just to teach people, and then a girl was chased off a bridge, off the Belle Isle Bridge, in front of a crowd of people that the news media said was cheering as she was yanked out of a car after having her door crowbarred open by 3 men. Her clothes were stripped off her in front of her daughter, teenage daughter, and then she was, as the crowd, they said, was cheering for her death. She jumped off the bridge to save her life, or try to, and she couldn't swim and she drowned. But the news media reported that the crowd was cheering, that she was, cheering for her death, and I didn't believe that. I actually believed that that was a lie. The media was lying. But I knew this, that if I had somebody on that bridge, or if I was on that bridge, I could have stopped these men from doing that to that mother and that daughter. And that was what changed me from that point, from a person focusing on business to focusing on getting training in the hands of the people that need it the most. And so I moved to the east side of Detroit, where it's very rough. The place that I was living, the building I was living in was probably middle class, right on East Jefferson, which is a major road. But all the buildings around it, what they called at risk. And my idea was to create a school there. But what happened was I found out that people need more than a school. And so I had to create an organization, and I used people from the streets of Detroit, volunteers, to protect their community. I got permission from the building owner of 10 of the buildings, and other building owners as well, once they found out we were successful there, to stop the home invasions and murders. And they were very reluctant at first, especially the first building owner, who just literally was not interested. Even though these people were paying him every month, he was at 30% occupancy. And that's his problem. Was he said, well, why would I invest in safety for these people in this community, hundreds of families, when I'm not making any money? And I haven't made any money since the 60s. And this conversation's in the 90s, 95. So he couldn't understand that my theory was we need to make the family safe anyway. It doesn't matter. And so what I did was I said, well, give me 6 months. And he said specifically, what do you think you can do that the entire police department can't do? And I've been in for, owning these buildings for 30 years. And I said, you know what? That's a very good point. Actually, at that moment, I really thought, man, I didn't think about that. What can I do? What can I do? What can one person do when you got these gangs home invading and murdering people? And so I said, well, I just know that legally I need the rights to control the space. I have to be able to be in position, and I have to be able to have the legal right to control the space. And that's what I did. So I made the deal, and that's how I was able to get my first school, which was about 500 square feet. And then I was able to stop home invasion murders by focusing on creating conditions for families to survive. And what happened was that building owner, who was already wealthy, got richer as a result of the poor people and the working class people not being home invaded and murdered anymore. I stopped a couple home invasions, and after the violent criminals found out that I'm willing to die and kill for the families, the violent criminals did 2 things. One, they tried to become very friendly. The other thing is they ran to the other blocks and left this community alone. And those are 2 options they had, and they chose them. And what I can say is that what I learned was most important over these past 26 years is that psychology is the most important aspect of human performance. And I did not know any of that because I grew up in the suburbs. I did not know anything about any of this extreme violence and bloodshed until I came to Detroit and had to put my life at risk for others for no money. So these people did not have any money. There's no money to be had. And the rich people weren't believing that you could actually make a difference in the first place. And so I just thought that, if I died, it'd be a good death. So this would be a good way of dying as a warrior. This would be a good death for me, because at least I got a chance to take some people out that were that are robbing, raping, killing families.
You're basically Batman.
Yeah, basically, a poor version of Batman, extremely poor. When I say my budget was negative $600 a month when I started. I don't know how you start with a negative budget, but I did it.
Wow.
I was using a lot of words.
I mean, thank you so much for coming on. Your story is pretty inspiring. A lot of people, when they see the memes, they see everything. I don't think they really hear that side of what you're doing. And, the actual service that you've done to your community. And yeah, I was reading up on the website about how basically you help foster an economic boom in Eastern Detroit, if I'm not
Right.
wrong.
Right.
That's
My community I was in. So I didn't know this at the time. But what happens is when the families are saved, occupancy goes from these apartment buildings, say 500 dwellings in 10 different buildings, approximately. And so out of the, say, you know, 500 dwellings, there's only 10% of the guys the people are criminals. 10%. So that means 90% of the people are just regular people, working class people, or senior citizens that are poor and older trying to survive. And the young thug, and we call them thug animals, because these guys were not criminals. They weren't, and I didn't know this watching TV, didn't teach anything about this, but these guys are not after taking something from you and moving on. They want to take your life, but only after they torture you. They only torture men, women, and children that they believe cannot hurt them. They are, or if you're not paying attention, they'll get you. But they are definitely not economic-based criminals. They don't need things from you. That's an excuse to torture you, to harm you and your family. And so I had to learn the difference between a criminal, this is a criminal-minded person, and what I created psychologically a term for how to define the difference. The thug animal would rape, rob, and kill you no matter what. The compliance does not matter. And so you can, try to comply. They'll still shoot you. They don't care about money. The point is to torture you and watch you writhe in pain. And the reason I figured out by communicating with them over years, what they're doing is it's called pain. I call it pain sharing. They were abused. They were neglected. They were tortured. They watched their mothers get tortured, their fathers get tortured, whatever it was. And as a result, they themselves are now channeling the pain that they felt as kids onto others, the suffering onto others. And that's why they want to put the gun in your mouth. That's why they want to torture you. That's why they don't care if you give them the car, they still shoot you anyway. It's not about the car. It's not about vagina or raping or any of those kind of things. It is about torturing and power and feeling a sense of empowerment over your victim. And that predatory mindset is what is not portrayed in the news media. It's not something I saw in movies. So I didn't identify it at first. I thought it was odd. I thought that no one would just, rape, rob, and kill people for no reason, or that there was, there's got to be some kind of logic behind it. And that's not true. The logic is in understanding human behavior and understanding how people transfer the pain that they felt onto others. And I also learned that the only way you're truly going to be able to protect people is if you love people. If you do not love people, you will not be able to put your life on the line for others. It has nothing to do with money. And if you think you're going to make money off of poor people, that's never going to happen. And if you think you're going to somehow survive going into violent conditions where people are being raped, robbed, and killed, and that's going to somehow be profitable, that's completely not the case. It will not happen. So a lot of bloodshed. We learned a lot of things over the years. And so after thousands of team members that I've trained, and as we trained, we went out. So the difference between us and others is we take our training and we physically go out and protect the community. So in the 1995, 96, 96 is when I made the transition to an actual organization that physically protects people, and that's because we had to. And I actually, I didn't want to. I thought I was going to be like a liaison, helping people, train them, teaching them how to communicate with police so they can make reports properly, and so they could know how to convey the information to police, and then police could prosecute people. And then I discovered that was not going to be adequate, that I literally had to physically go out with a group and create the protection that we needed. And since I can't work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I had to have more people than just me that could actually physically make a difference and protect people consistently. So when you call us, we're coming, and that there's no better teacher than the heuristics involved in actual application. So what I got a chance to see was what happens when you attack people out of your weight class. What happens when they transition to firearms, knives, bottles, bat? What actually happens when you're dealing with these multiple aggressors, and there's almost never going to be a fair fight. There's almost never going to be a one-on-one. And almost never at any time is someone going to be in your weight class. And then at the end of all your altercations, there is going to be 9 times out of 10 police interaction. So if you don't know legally how to defend yourself, you don't know how to legally explain the situation, you don't know how to legally articulate the threat, you literally cannot just get sued. I mean, if you're poor, you can't get sued anyway, right? But you could actually go to prison. And a lot of good people are in prison. So on top of getting killed, which is what happens to people that intervene without having the appropriate knowledge to manage extreme threat conditions like multiple aggressors and firearms and knives in close quarters. Another thing that happens is you end up getting prosecuted, and these people getting prosecuted. They're good people. They were doing something to protect someone or protect others, and they didn't know how to articulate it legally when the police arrived.
Right.
And so as that's what we teach.
So Billy here, his hands were registered as weapons because he was a professional boxer. So he had to be mindful in certain situations. Like, I could get myself into legal problems if I deployed the use of these weapons that are attached to my arms. So that was something that we were always mindful of, making sure that Billy stayed out of trouble and they didn't accidentally hurt or severely, injure somebody trying to defend anybody else's honor. I feel like the next step for you at this point, since you're everywhere now, has got to be like Hollywood. Has Hollywood come calling? Like, you could be the next Steven Seagal, and you could be the guy that takes on 200 bad guys at once, makes them all submit, and then converts them into being good guys after you've made them all tap.
That would be my movie, right? Conversion into good people. Yeah. So I don't know, man. As long as we get the word out there, if we use humor, if we use notoriety or famous people, as long as we let people know they don't have to let people rape, rob, and kill them, they can actually have some intelligent options to increase their survivability rather than just hoping. So a lot of people, they don't realize that people are being murdered every day that are, just doing exactly what they were told. They got in the trunk of the car. They had sex against their will. They gave them the car. They allowed everything to happen to them, and they still got killed. And me personally, I experienced that when I was just out of the military. I was 21. I was a private investigator, and I was actually robbed by 4 young men. And I thought the young men were kids, like college kids or something. And they were wearing cross colors. And I was like 200 and maybe I was like 200 pounds. And these kids were all like 140, 130. And so I really was not intimidated at all. I'm carrying a stun gun and a firearm. And they, all the 2 of them pulled guns. The other one was in the middle searching me. And they're all at point blank range. And I remember thinking, I'm about to do a great gun disarm. 21. I was training all these different martial arts. Kyokushinkai was my favorite at the time. And I was so excited. I was about to take this gun. And then all of a sudden, the second gun pushed into my rib cage. And I was like, oh, man, 2 people can have guns at the same time. I've never even thought of that. And I complied like I was supposed to. I had no other options anyway, known options at the time. And after I gave them everything, these guys walked across the street. And I technically didn't give them my shoes, but I was going to give them my shoes. It's just the guy got scared and started walking back because his friends started leaving him behind. So I learned more about psychology through actual application. But this
you're gonna give him the shoes to like sweeten the pot a little bit?
No,
like I know you didn't ask for them, but maybe we can be friends.
He was demanding my Jordans, and I was like, "Come on, man, you got everything. You have everything. You don't need that. Come on." So I stepped on the shoe slowly, and he got scared because I was so much bigger than him. And 200 pounds, I'm only 5'9". I wasn't very big compared to him. To him, I was big, but I wasn't a very big guy. But these guys were that little that they were that scared that once they started to break apart, and other people backed off because they grabbed things from me and started backing away. The point is that what I thought was going to be just a robbery and they're going to leave, I didn't fight, I didn't do anything. The guys started looking down the street and started shooting at people down the street. And I remember thinking, you can't even tell that those are men or women down the street. You just started shooting down there. And then the guy took my pistol off of me. It was in the middle of me. He was right in the front. He took my gun and held it at my chest. And he was trying to shoot the gun. I remember thinking, what's he doing? Why is he holding the gun? Just holding it there. He wasn't holding it there. It was like a Beretta style pistol. And the magazine was actually broken. So the Beretta that I had, this Beretta style pistol, it won't fire if the magazine's not fully seated. So he didn't realize the bottom of it had some tape on it, and the bottom of the mag was kind of dipping down. As a result, he couldn't pull the trigger. He said he could pull the trigger, but he couldn't make it fire. And he couldn't, I guess he didn't know how to cock the weapon or anything. But he was sitting there trying to figure out how to turn the safety off and how to make it work. And that's where I realized that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to shoot me with my own gun in my chest. I remember thinking, my God, this guy is actually trying to kill me with my gun. And at that time, I had a bullet in the chamber. I don't teach that now, but I did I didn't believe it at that moment. And I remember thinking, this guy, I didn't realize because they're all talking to me at the same time, by the way. So I'm like, this guy's still sitting here with the gun on my chest. And I remember thinking, he's still in front of me with the gun. And he's looking perplexed. Then he just backs off. And then they go across the street, start shooting. And then as I backed away out into the street, I tried to get like a license plate or see what kind of car they had. They were, maybe parked on the next block. They got down about, I want to say, maybe 50 yards and started shooting at me from 50 yards away in the dark. I fell on the ground, act like I got shot. And they took off. And I remember thinking, you're shooting at someone who's standing here. I didn't even move. I didn't like go towards them. I stood in the street and they still shot at me. Yeah. And I remember thinking, that's crazy. I thought if you just do what they say, they won't shoot you.
What year was this?
That's in, that was like 92.
Okay, so do you think you escalated the situation by wearing Jordans in Detroit? He wasn't the most popular character in Detroit back then.
Yeah, that might be it. I mean, that might, they had cross colors on too. So we did the cross colors, then I had the Jordans.
See,
dangerous.
You answered one of my questions that I had for you, which is, you ever thought about just playing dead? That's kind of my move. Is just going possum, right? You can't kill me twice. I should start my own dojo and my own form of martial arts, and it's just martial arts for cowards, where you just like grab your ankle and you're like, ow, timeout. You call it timeout, and that buys you at least a half second, right?
No, you don't have to do that because I've been on the internet now for the past few months, and I have just discovered that there is a love affair with cowardice. I mean, these guys, I have never seen such proud cowardice. They're like, oh, don't do what Dale Brown says. You should just run away. You should just run. I would run. I ran away. I've been robbed many times. I tell you something. This Dale Brown, he's stupid. He's fighting. He should not be fighting. You just let them rob you. They have knife. They have gun. You should run away. That's what you should do. Don't listen to Dale Brown. He's crazy. I'm very skilled, and I run away every time. Okay. Well, guess what? In real life, in the United States, I can't run away. Not only can I not run away, I don't want to run away because violent criminals are not allowed to just kill people around me. And so what I learned was that I had to be the most dangerous person in the room. That's where I had to keep training and change my mindset. And I had to learn that a lot of the training that I had is not going to be the kind of training I need if I want to make a human stop functioning. Mm-hmm. I was not taught that. I was taught how to punch and kick with the idea that my punching and kicking will cause them not to want to continue, or I'll have more points, or I'll be able to strike them in such a way they will not be able to continue, but they won't be severely injured. And they can we can spar tomorrow. We can have a competition again. We can do all kinds of things.
Part of friends, yeah.
But if I'm going to be fighting for my life, I'm going to be stopping violent people who have intention to kill me. That's not going to be what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to damage the person in such a way that they're not functional. And that is what I learned, and what I learned I had to do, and then what we had a chance to actually have to do. So, and in doing that, I also learned a lot about the psychology of survival versus my sports psychological background. So a different mindset. I had to develop a different mindset to meet the needs of my conditions, of what myself and my team members were experiencing. So when you get shot at and stabbed, and people try to stab you and shoot you, and then your team members do get shot and they do get stabbed, you have to actually physically deal with these individuals that have shot and stabbed your team members, and you actually have to render first aid to your team members and to total strangers that have been shot and stabbed. You learn a lot about the psychology that you have to have and the psychology of others as it relates to survival versus fighting. And so the core difference I've learned is that one is something you agree to, and one is essentially one you have to respond to in order to survive. Two separate worlds. Right. And my goal is to share that information with people so they can increase their survivability for them and their families.
Great. So we've got Arian Foster here, and Arian is kind of like you, except if you taught people how to defend yourself against wolves. Arian is I think world champion human to wolf, hand-to-hand combat. You're not ranked number 1, I think. But yeah, Arian, I want to see. You have any questions for Dale? Excuse me, Commander Brown.
Yeah. What's going on, brother? I'm interested in some of the logic behind what you're saying, man. Just because I came in the interview late, and you might have addressed this already, but from what I gather, I'm gonna just ask you before I assert. Do you when you train people, do you train them to defend themselves with aggression first? Like, is that the first option you exercise, like to protect yourself?
No,
Or do
absolutely.
you?
Absolutely
Okay,
not. We
what?
use psychology, law, skill, in that order. So it's actually a survival system.
Right.
So it's for civilians and police. The police just have a lot more leeway. Obviously.
I'm more
Psychology-
interested in the civilian because I'm in the police. It's a whole different conversation, but I'm more interested in the civilian training.
Right. So psychologically, the first thing we do is we teach psychology, law, and skill in that order. And so psychology allows you to enables you to know how to project body language in such a way that violent criminals that are predatory don't want to approach you in the first place. And then understanding body language, how to read. READ is an acronym, stands for recognizing evasive, aggressive, deceptive behavior. READ is part of the foundation of our psychological training. And that's how you learn how to interpret the body language so you know who is a real threat versus a false threat. And then using that information, in our case now, to create a non-adversarial interaction for a non-violent outcome. So specifically, how do you approach someone in a way that is positive, but still strong, so they don't want to be aggressive and violent, but at the same time, you're able to join, mirror, and placate, so you can create a positive interaction with them. And that means that you have to, when you join, mirror, and placating, you're actually creating a trust bond. And in that trust bond, you're creating a condition where they can comply with your objectives because you make them believe it's in their best interest. And that's how you're able to create positive outcomes and avoid violent outcomes. So by design, that's not how I started. When I started, it was extreme aggression. When I started in the 90s, it was how to be the most violent, aggressive person up front. If there's going to be guns, I make sure I have more of them and more rounds and sufficient and significant types of ammunition so that I can make the difference necessary in multiple aggressors simultaneously.
It's art of war.
I learned not to be that way.
So what diverted you from that line of thought?
Experience. So as the bloodshed continued and lots more bloodshed, and we got really good at bloodshed, meaning dominating violent people, groups, individuals, and we're getting further and further into dominating them consistently, I developed compassion through reality. So in reality, these are real people, and these are people with families. So the enemy, I used to think of people as the enemy, right? This gang, this individual, this psychopath, these thug animals are the enemy. And that's not true. The enemy is simply violence. Violence. So I don't care if they're in a gang now. I mean, but at that time, I cared that gangs were around our families. And I thought, we have to protect them. And the truth is, they're families as well. So you have to treat everyone like humans. You have to treat everyone like family. And I learned that, through time. I changed through time. So through bloodshed, I learned that there was ways to avoid this. And then I began to understand the importance of nonviolence, meaning if you like to stay free and you don't want prison and you don't want death for yourself, then you need to focus on creating positive interactions. So you're not creating the pathway to poverty, imprisonment, and death. And that's what's going to happen if you're creating the condition, the pathway for violence. You're going to create more violence. And so that's why we teach against it, both with police and civilians. But we came from a world of extreme violence. I believed in BOA, violence of action. I believed in being superior and significant. I thought the best thing to do is make sure you and your team are the most violent people in the room so you can dominate. And then I learned through years of experience that is exactly the opposite of what you need to be thinking about. You want a better life, better quality of life for yourself and others. You need to figure out a way to not have the violence. And the only way to do that is to remove the fear. So threat management is, preventive threat management is a system that we teach. And that preventive threat management is the system that teaches how to create the non-adversarial interactions for nonviolent outcomes by design. So you don't have to hope that this person doesn't swing on you. You don't have to hope that they don't pull out a knife or gun. With our training system, we teach you and show you what we did to stop them from believing they need to pull it out. There's no need, there's no gain, there's no perception of opportunity. Once you deny that psychologically and you create a path for them to go down peacefully, down another pathway, then you can create that outcome. So now we use that successfully dealing with every kind of extreme violence, from people that are, they're there to actively shoot people, people that are there to that are actually kicking doors, trying to home invade people that actually home invaded them. We're physically able to stop them, get them under custody when they do commit crimes. But mostly what we're successful at and what we're proud of is creating conditions where they don't come into your community, where they don't come in your house. And that is the training itself. Without the training, we would not succeed. I would not be here. And there's absolutely no money in protecting poor people or what we do, which is protecting domestic violence victims, stalking victims, and crime witnesses for free for 26 years. So none of our victims that we've been protecting have been killed after contacting us, and they were sent to us by prosecutors' offices, by judges, by police advocates, in some cases police officers. And these are extreme conditions where some gang or individual wants to kill this person, has done so before, attempted to, and is going to again for some benefit, like there's a court date coming up. And we have been protecting these people, these normally the poor people, sometimes the working class people, for free for the past 26 years, and none of them are dead. More importantly, just as important as all the families that we protect 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, throughout Detroit and multiple communities are also alive and safe. And that's because of our training, not because of hope and luck. So without skill, we would not be successful.
No, I appreciate you answering that. So I just got a couple more things, man, because I'm just curious. This whole thing is fascinating to me, man. Because if you look at most data points, like violence, like home burglaries, or anything like that, the majority of it is like from people that you know.
It's right.
Yeah, so it's rare. It's rarer that you'll find like strangers getting robbed, right?
Correct.
And so, I think a broader point, right? I guess
what you just said is very important, which is why on my videos, and I said this in my videos, but people ignored it, I specifically show people how not to kill and injure people. I really focused on that, and then people took it the wrong way, as in to say that that training is not going to hurt people. No, it can hurt people. We're just showing you how not to hurt people, because mostly who are you going to have problems with? It's your family, it's your friends, it's your neighbors. It's the people at work. So I'm glad you brought that up. Good point.
Right. And so real quick, PFT. One of the broader points I'm going to address, right, is we have like a marketing problem in this country that has been going on for a very long time. And I think that, and you spoke on both sides of the fence, so I'm curious of your outlook of it, right? Because on one side you say the years of experience taught you to have compassion for these people because you understand that the reason why they hurt people is because they've been hurt, right? Yep. But then on the other side of the fence, you label them as thug animals, right? And so that kind of branding to me, especially because when you're talking about those folks, you're talking about people that look like me and you. The majority, I would assume that you're talking about. And so that otherizes people and demonizes people, which leads to a lot of either implicit or unimplicit bias in policing. And
that's very point, but no.
So I'm just curious as to why you frame it like that, but knowing the other side and how you understand that compassion can change people's lives.
Great point. I'm glad you brought that up. That is vital. What you just said is vital. So what happens is when you think of people, we all have these biases, right? Those biases are also false narrative. So in our mind, you think that all the things you're thinking are usually a false bias. They're a false axiom. You actually accepted them as things like, the majority of people in prison are Black people. Majority of people on welfare are Black people. All these things are falsehoods. There's absolutely nothing to that. And the reality is that we think the word disproportionate means majority, and that does not. Okay, so yes, things are disproportionate, but no, they are not the majority of any negative thing. So the bottom line is that imagine distorting the reality that this person that's got the gun on you just wants your chain. So imagine that distortion, like, oh, they're poor people and only poor people are going to hurt you. But yet, if you studied reality, you'd find that Jeffrey Dahmer was eating people. Ted Bundy was in law school his last semester. Ted Kaczynski was a professor, which means he had a job when he was blowing up people for 20 years wearing a hoodie. So when you look at this reality, it doesn't match the narrative. And none of that is going to help you protect yourself and your family. So imagine if you think that a violent criminal is the guy with tattoos on his neck and tattoos on his face, when in fact it's the clean cut looking guy who talks nice and doesn't cuss and goes to church and has a two-family household, two-parent household, goes to church, got plans to go to college, is in college, has graduated from college, runs a business. Turns out they're an evil person. But because you were thinking in this axiomatic, this American false axiom box, which is poor people are the enemy. That's not true. The richest people in our country are the most destructive, and the people that have done the most heinous crimes throughout history are also more wealthy with two-parent households, and none of them are homeless. Bernie Madoff with more money than all the criminals in the history of America combined, and he had multiple homes. He was not homeless. Whatever homeless problem you have, guess what? You have 100 times that problem with people with a home. You know how police took people into custody? They went to their home with a search warrant and they arrested them at a home because they were not homeless. But yet you're going to hear every night in the news, oh, homeless people attack someone. Homeless people attack. How about homeless people? For every homeless person attacks someone, many times that number were homeless people. My point in saying that is the false narratives affect your biases, and that recency bias you're getting from watching TV is going to cloud your judgment. So now you think, oh my gosh, he's going to rob me. I'll be fine. That is simply not true. The reason they even people say that is because they're talking to the people that didn't die on the street. They didn't get in the trunk and get killed. They didn't get killed in their bedroom. They're talking about the people that made the police report they were alive.
So hold on real quick. So you're saying
murder, not called robbery victims. Okay, they were called death. They were called murder.
I understand.
Called investigation. Yeah,
I got you. So my question is, I guess your premise is to stoke fear, and so when somebody is encountered, you should think that they're trying to kill you.
No, what you're supposed to do is realize that these people that are violent criminals are going to kill you. That's what they do. Don't believe that they're not. Yeah.
But we just agree that that's a small percentage of interactions of non-violent or violent interactions.
Yeah.
All I'm saying, I don't want to get into a back and forth. I was just curious as to your mindset.
In my experience, what happened was people believe that violent people with guns that are violent criminals can be trusted simply because they're using a falsehood of logic that makes absolutely no sense. And that is that somehow this person with a gun to your head, your neck, to your back, your skull, can be trusted with your life. And that's just not true. And you should be armed with the ability to decide if you're going to allow yourself to be raped, robbed, and murdered. And if you don't want to allow this, then you should have intelligent options to resist. And that's the point of my training, is to help people have better options than just simply guessing. And to be honest, people are guessing and they're still winning. The Waffle House shooter took down an AR-15 guy who was naked, shooting a bunch of people. He killed 4 people, and he would have killed more if this untrained electrician, Mr. Shaw, wouldn't have tackled him and took his rifle from him. And so these things are happening every day. People are disarming gunmen. Active shooters have been disarmed by school teachers and students. But with my training, it just makes it easier, and you'll be more successful if you understood basic principles of how to remove a gun from someone's hands.
And we're going to let you get back to your training in because I feel like every second we have you on this show, that's somebody whose life you could be saving out there. But before I do let you go, you mentioned something earlier, like there's different environments for this type of survival training. It can be on the street. It can be in an office building. It can be right here in our office in New York City. We have a person on our podcast, Big T, who has come face to face with what could be reasonably called a
irrational actor, a life-threatening situation.
I was wondering if you had any advice for him, because what ended up happening was there was an individual who works here in our office that picked up a blunt object and approached Big T and was threatening to strike him directly in the face with it from 6 feet away.
Well, yeah, but this was after he threw.
So he threw.
No, he threw an object from 15 yards away at what speed did we determine, Billy?
It was 25 feet. It was a 12-ounce aluminum full alcoholic beverage, and I think we calculated it was traveling around 51 miles per hour through the air.
Fast enough to do some damage. So, but then he approached our friend Big T, and he was about to do it in close quarters again, just strike him directly in the face. How would you go about disarming a would-be assailant 6 feet away from you? They've got a blunt object of some sort. It could be a can of High Noon. It could be anything.
So essentially what you want to do is ahead of time, you want to try to use psychology to demotivate them at a distance.
That's not going to work with this
A
guy.
rational actor, remember.
Well,
So-
let me throw this curveball in. What if you've been taunting this person before the attack?
No. Now this
Yeah.
is the fake news media again.
So if you can, throwing something at them as you attack them is going to help you survive. It'll increase your survivability. And so throwing something directly at him, which destabilizes his platform and making him feel like he can aim at you, is vital. And then rushing and closing the gap. And so if you do get hit, which this happens, is like real life. I mean, in real life, if someone has a knife or a gun, you should expect to be shot or stabbed. What you don't want to do is be shot or stabbed repeatedly. Like boxing. You can't box or be a boxer without getting punched. Okay? You just don't want to get punched a lot in the head. That's the goal, right? Obviously, sometimes people get punched one time, it's over. But the reality is, everything you do is either going to increase or decrease your likelihood of survivability. And so what I can tell you from a distance is the best thing to do is to throw something at them if it's readily available. If not, you just rush them and go at them so fast. The first thing they start thinking about is their own self-preservation. And that's what I've had to do many times, just because there was no other option based on the distance and the timing and the fact that their intention was what it was. There was no other way. I couldn't take cover. I couldn't even, reach for a rifle in some cases. You attack your attacker. And what I found is that you can fix the problems by going in on the attacker. And what happens is psychologically, when you go forward on the attacker, that means they've decided to attack you. As you rush them, you actually destabilize them psychologically because they can't believe you're actually attacking them. And in some cases, especially if it's multiple aggressors, when they see you rushing them, it's shocking for them. And that can also help you in a real situation. And then you need to, once you get engaged, you need to make sure you're moving in a circle, not a straight line, forward or backward, because that's going to help you attack them as you move around them. And you go in their eyes, you go to their throat, and you go to their knees. And you do not, I mean, if you do punch, it's just to open them up so you can get in their eyes, get in their throat, and get to their knees.
That's the spots.
Their groin.
So you're thinking,
all the things to stop them from punching.
So when striking to neutralize, are you saying neck, eyes,
Throat,
hyoid? What are
up here. You want to go up here.
What's your thoughts?
Not down.
What's your thoughts on like the liver or the kidney punch, or like the chop, the kidney? You're not a fan? Okay.
No, definitely not. And that's because in the street, it's not uncommon to have someone 100 to 200 pounds of your weight class. And if you want to see something, you want to see why in MMA and in boxing, weight class is the beginning of the definition of qualifying conflict. Just go back to UFC 1. Go look at Tank Abbott and these other guys. Right? You can see the difference. I mean, it makes a huge. And now imagine that's a sport still. No one's really trying to kill each other. In the street, they're literally going to try to kill you. So the difference is going to be severe and significant psychologically. Just the fact that you're now involved in a conflict you did not agree to be in. So remember the difference between like some guys like, oh, I do street fighting. Okay, street fighting is not life and death normally. Okay, you're just gonna go outside the bar, kick each other's ass, and they leave it alone. And so what I'm saying is that's not where we're used to dealing with violent individuals and gangs that have a purpose, which is to kill you, to take your life. And that is a different kind of energy with a different kind of purpose. And so that's where the psychology of survival and psychology of sport are completely different.
Right.
And it's important to understand that's my trainings for your survival. I don't care if you're jiu-jitsu, if you're Krav Maga, if you're firearms guy, stick person, knife fighter. The training that we have for you is vital for your survivability because it's going to teach you a lot about psychology, law, and skills that you'll need to bring things to closure in unusual ways, especially when you're dealing with multiple aggressors. So that's where we can be very beneficial to everyone.
Follow-up question on dealing with multiple assailants. Let's say you're walking home late at night, back from the bar or something. You're alone and you encounter a group of individuals who, and you have to sort of figure out that situation. We've seen a lot of examples of people getting stomped out, these sort of types of beatings. If you're in that situation, what should you do?
You mean when I was in that situation? Let me be clear. So when I was in those situations, what I did was I did different things, and I found out what worked best. What worked best is attack your attacker. The mouthpiece, the one running his mouth, is usually running his mouth because he's got a tough guy with him, someone he trusts, like either his cousin or a really good friend. It's not going to leave him standing. And that big guy, usually a bigger guy, he's a tough guy, he's a little quieter. the guy running his mouth is usually the mouthpiece, but he's only confident because of his big guy. So, or his tough guy, it's the actual fighter he has on his team. And so you figure out who that is that split second, because they're usually running them out a lot. What they're doing is they're sizing you up. So the first thing predators are going to do is they're going to look at you. When they choose you, they're going to approach you. The next thing they're going to verbally say something to check your response, your verbal response, which helps them determine if you're still a good target. So they look at you, they thought, I can take them, we can take them. Let's go jump this guy. Then, or these guys, or guys and girls. Then they say, okay, now that we've made the decision, the next thing they do is they say something. They're going to say something stupid. Sometimes they say something neutral. Other times they say something aggressive, disrespectful to see your response. And so after they do the verbal check, see if you're a good victim for them to choose, the next thing they're going to do is they're going to do a physical check. Block your way or push you or something stupid. They're still assessing you for victimization. They haven't made the full decision yet. It's like 3 stages. And so what you want to do is use those 3 stages to change their behavior. And the first one is, of course, not be a good target visually if you can. And that means to not show signs of fear, or if you can, get out of there. Good. If you just get in the house, get in the building, shut the door, lock the door, drive away if you have that ability. If not, then you need to go towards them, because that's not what they're expecting you to do. You need to transpose yourself. You need to go towards that person or persons that you believe might be trying to victimize you. And then what happens is that's counterintuitive. That's not normal. What happens is psychologically it throws them off. They're already off. Like, why are you coming? If I'm the predator with a larger group, why are you coming towards us? Why are you doing that? And so that right there automatically throws them off, especially when they know you did it on purpose. But you keep it positive and strong. And that means that you're not being challenging, but you're letting them know I'm not scared of you at the same time. Mm-hmm. That reduces a whole section of people, of these kind of predators, because they're the kind of people that don't want to get injured at all. Right. Their point of jumping people is to make sure they don't get hurt. My point is the last is physical. That's the last stage you're going to do before they actually pull the gun, knife, or they just start stomping you out. And that's where you can stop that as well by not being physically affected by the push that they tried, the physical action. And when they see that they can't physically affect you, it causes them a sense of panic. When you don't respond properly, it causes them internally a sense of panic. And that's how you can actually use that to destabilize them and make them choose other people to go target. Now, if you don't do that, they're gonna attack you, and you can be a great fighter. If you're not used to dealing with multiple aggressors at the same time, you're not using the cars, you're not using tables, you're not using buildings as cover to help to wipe them off as you're moving around, then they're going to obviously overwhelm you. And so, and every person that you strike, you need to hit them in the eyes, you got to hit them in the throat, you got to hit them in the knees, and you got to hit through the knee. You don't want to kick at their knee, you want to go through the knee to the ground. You're going to get hit. You accept that psychologically. You're going to get stabbed, you're going to get shot. When you're in life-death struggle, you're going to be injured. That's not what you're trying to necessarily avoid. It'd be great if you could. That's not realistic. What you want to avoid is being killed. So you have to focus that no matter what happens to me, I'm going to drive through this. So when you're bleeding profusely and you still got to hold your ground, you still got to do that, because if you don't, it's going to get much worse. Just turning your back on aggressors and trying to walk away, trying to get away from them. And by the way, the chance of you being able to defeat violent criminals and by running is highly unlikely. So a lot of them are really good runners. The chance of, unless you're a runner, if you know you're a good track star, go ahead and run. But if you have not been running lately, this is not a good time to start jogging.
He played wide receiver, so he's pretty quick afoot. We're gonna let you go. We appreciate your time. My last question: do you think that you could defeat all of us at once if we encircled you? So it's me, Billy. He was a football player again. Fists, lethal weapons. Big T. He's got experience in violent hand-to-hand situations. Arian Foster played in the NFL for a while. Could beat a wolf. And then Coley, who's a big boy. And then we also have Mad Dog. And Mad Dog has a knife. Nobody else is armed, but it's the group of us against you in a gym.
And she's from Ohio. And that's also of note.
About the size of your dojo.
She likes to hang out at gas stations.
I didn't know if someone's from Ohio. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know. They told me out front. I would have to use my long distance running skills. So yeah, that's why they make really big magazines and very large bore. So yeah, I'd be fine.
Okay.
That's why I'm here.
Well, hopefully one day we'll get up to Detroit and we'll see you in person. We'll have you put us through a little training regiment.
Yeah,
You
it'd be
can
fun, guys.
teach us how to disarm each other in this group.
Yeah.
I think
That would be really
You
fun.
love it, guys. You will love it. Seriously, come on by. It's great. It's actually it is amazing. So I got everything from military guys, the sports guys, but law enforcement guys come in. They really cannot believe it. Not just Snoop Dogg, not just Rick Ross. These are people that are in extreme extreme jobs involving firearms that really thought that you could hold someone with a firearm and there's no way they can take the gun from you and that you'll be able to retain it. And that's not real. And that's where, that you'll like the fact that you can actually disarm people from all different kinds of positions. And we use airsoft. You can actually feel it and see if you're wrong or not.
All right.
Yeah.
But
By
we
the
had
way,
a chance to use ours. So if it didn't work, we'd be dead right now. For sure, 100%.
by the way, I just wanted to give you a chance. So I saw that video of that guy who claimed to I don't know, the jiu-jitsu guy who said, "Oh yeah, like we tricked him." That was total BS. Like no one actually would react that way. And
Right.
if I want to give you a
Right.
chance, if you wanted to speak on
Yeah.
that video that tried to say the disarming
Yeah.
didn't work.
they tried to
Well-
disarm your disarming video.
Yeah.
Is what they did.
Yeah. So what's funny about that is he did it already in the video, and I put that one up as well. You have that video. That's his video, by the way. We allow people to video record, and he edited it. He stopped it on the second one, so it looks like he shot me on the second part and then didn't get taken down, which is not true. He got taken down, and that's why I didn't care if you have the video because like you're gonna show the whole thing, right? You're not gonna edit it and show that that didn't happen. And then the video before that, like videos earlier in the training, which was a free training, by the way, we do this for thousands of people a year. He tried to pull the gun back and it didn't work. So we've already gone through that. So we're now moving on to, I thought we'd already been through that because he's tried to pull it back without saying anything, tried to be sneaky and pull it back. And by the way, that's happened 1,000 times. People always come in with, I'm going to pull it back. That's not new. So some kid from Ohio, this is the first guy in 26 years to think, oh, I can just pull it back. How about this? Here's what's wrong with this, with the idea. There are people right now that carry guns to protect themselves and protect the communities and protect our country. And if they believe that you just simply can pull it back, then they could be killed. And we don't want that. We want them to know how to retain that weapon. And it's not by pulling it back. It's by pushing their eyes back when they try to grab your gun. That's how you maintain your gun. You don't pull your gun back and hope bullets stop someone when hypovolemic shock is not going to stop them anyway. So this, the concept that you get shot and get stopped is just not realistic. That's not what really happens. What really happens is when people get shot, they continue to fight on if that's what they are intending to do. Can you shoot someone who's not trying to hurt you and they drop? Of course. But if that person was trying to attack and you shoot them, it's a higher probability that they're going to continue to attack because what stops a person is not being shot, it's hypovolemic shock, meaning you lost too much blood. And therefore, the long-term wound cavity created such a gap that you began to bleed out and then you passed out, and or a catastrophic strike to a vital area, which is very rare, that could actually stop someone. So know that people get shot in the heart and still fight on. People have been shot in the head many times and still fight on. And so the reality is gun dependence, the belief that if I shoot this person, they're going to stop, highly unlikely. Failure to stop is a common occurrence. 6 of us have been shot. None of my team members have died, and none of them stopped immediately and were unable to function. One of my guys, the first guy who got shot was in my vehicle, one of my trucks. He got shot 6 times, and one of the shots went through his head, through his neck. He came out the other side, and pretty much, in my belief, I thought he would die from that. He got shot 6 times, all through the chest area, and one went through and through the neck. And he's not only is he alive, but he actually worked a shift a couple days ago. So he is functioning.
Quick last question.
Protecting people.
This is a debate that we have on the show. Would you rather get shot or stabbed?
I would have no. It doesn't matter. Like it's like
But like, what do you think would be worse, getting shot or stabbed?
It really depends. Like where you are. I mean, where you get shot or stabbed, right?
Yeah.
Because if you get stabbed, remember what stops you is bleeding. So whatever's going to cause the majority, the fastest,
right.
loss of blood is the thing that you got to fear. So if a person knows how to open you up with a blade and knows how to move the blade and open up and make a larger wound, you're going to bleed faster.
That's why I always argue I'd rather get shot.
Well, bleed,
Yeah.
Well, so I can tell you that there are people that have been shot, and the people who get shot, the stab, that don't go to the hospital,
Yeah.
and so they heal up at home. So
Right.
the reality is, where you get shot, how many times you get shot, the wound cavity, the size of the wound cavity, all those things are determining factors. Also the physical conditions, your condition at the time of the shooting or stabbing. So, I don't think that, I think that the knife is, much more reliable than a firearm. It's easier to use, and it never runs out of ammunition, and it is easily accessible. So the knives are extremely dangerous, just as dangerous, if not more dangerous than guns in many cases. However, you have more use of guns, so you have more deaths from guns.
Yeah.
All right.
In our country.
Awesome.
States.
Well, thank you, Commander Brown. You can find him on Cameo. You can stop by Detroit Urban Survival Training, the Threat Management Center. You can study with him. He can be your sensei. Hopefully one day.
No sensei. No.
We can't say that?
Your master. We don't have no masters, no senseis. Nope. We're just trainers. So we're going to train you, coach you, so that you understand a lot of different things so you can increase your survivability. So we want to make sure you have so many options that your brain never draws a blank. I don't care if they have a knife or gun or baseball bat. Your brain should know something that it can do to protect you and your family. That's the only reason we teach, is to help people not draw a blank, not just so they can be self-reliant. I don't care if you live in a country town, you live in a city, you live in the suburbs. We all need to know how to keep ourselves and our families safe. And if you go to Detroit_Dust on Instagram, or Detroit Threat Management Center on YouTube, you can find our videos there. You can also Google us, Detroit Threat Management Center, and you'll see 26 years of media coverage nationally, internationally, that shows you a lot of things we've done for people. So what you want to know is, what does someone do with the training? And what we did was keep people alive and safe 26 years. And that's what separates our training system and our school from many others, that it's for usage in the real world. So where we got a chance to see it work is in the real world, protecting people from death. So that's why we teach. We teach because we know it will help you survive. It helped us. It helped police officers. You see police officers that have testimonials online that are swearing that the training they got from us kept them alive. And what we're really proud of is the training that we teach police officers and civilians is specifically designed to not kill people, not injure people, to show other alternative options. And the reason why I'm showing more aggressive things now is because we need to, because some people got twisted by watching the videos. They didn't do any research, and they're thinking that that even though you see it on our symbol, on our insignia, it says tactical firearms, tactical knife, tactical baton. They don't understand that's what we do. And so they're thinking that, for example, that the threat continuum that we teach doesn't end in the reality that you may have to take a life to save a life. That's just, we're going to show you a lot of ways to avoid it, but that ultimately is the 3 stages of escaping, controlling, and immobilizing that threat. And when you immobilize the threat, you're doing things that are not allowed in any sport. It will severely damage that person for the rest of their lives if they are surviving after attack. So understand that this is for your survival. It is not for your sport. You cannot use most of our training in a sport, whether it's the escape, well, you can use escapes, but you couldn't use the controls or the immobilizations. A lot of our controls are small joint manipulations, and they don't allow that in any sport. Gripping the throat, any of those kind of things. So, what we're really proud of is that we can bring this to regular people so they can actually, have these great stories of how they save themselves and their families. And we look forward to sharing that with you.
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Again, when we're up in Detroit, I want to stop by your center. I would love to try some of this stuff in person. So thank you, Commander Dale Brown. You find him online, find him on Cameo, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Take care, man. Commander Dale Brown was brought to you by our great friends over at Sport Clips. Sport Clips, they're the experts at cutting men's hair. I don't take my broken phone screen to a mechanic for the same reason I don't trust my hair in the hands of my grandma's stylist. I want someone who specializes in me, and the experts at Sport Clips are trained specifically for guys' hair. It can be long, curly, short, thinning, thick, chubby face, skinny. Whatever your look, they know how to cut and shape your hair to fit you best. Afterwards, you might get a pinch on the cheek from grandma. Sport Clips, the pros in men's hair. It's the best place to go to get a haircut. Check them out today. Get the hot steam towel. Get the MVP experience. Tell them Macrodosing sent you. Go to Sport Clips. All right. We're back. We got some voicemails.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get to them. Thank you to Commander Dale Brown. He's quite a talker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That guy. So it would be very fun though to send Big T to Detroit Urban Survival Training, learn how to deal with its coworkers. Do you wish that you had training?
No, I think I handled it perfect.
Perfect.
I
mean, what'd you want me to do? Fight him?
How much bloodshed could have been avoided?
He told you to rush him.
That is true. I don't hate his reasoning there. Just put him into a state of shock.
yeah. If you, well, I mean, never mind.
Say it.
It's just like the guy wouldn't act out like that if he like knew there could be consequences.
Are you saying that Big T is not a physically imposing enough threat?
No. I mean,
Sounds like you're calling Big T a bitch.
like for example, if you started yelling back at Rico,
That's not
I think
true.
he'd shut the fuck up and just like whimper.
Oh no, I think.
No, that's
I
not
think
true.
He keeps yelling. But
If
it
you
would
start-
never like. I don't think there would like unless you throw the first punch. I don't see him ever throwing the first punch.
or the first can.
You don't see him throwing the first punch?
He threw the first
an
Threw
can.
the first
punch?
can.
He
But
threw
the
the
can
first
is,
can.
but the can distances him. I don't think he would make.
Yeah, I think the
contact.
can was capped, dog. Keep it a buck.
Right. Yeah, I don't.
I seen the surveillance footage. When he came up to you, he didn't want to fight.
Right.
Or else you been swung on. He didn't want to fight.
Big T de-escalated with his very presence.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Billy's just upset because Billy
I missed it.
wished that he had been there so that Billy could have taken credit for stopping it. All right, let's get to some voicemails. Let's
Okay.
do it.
We have 2 today. Ready?
Yep.
Hey, what's up, guys? Tanner from Ocala, Florida. First time, long time. I just want to know where I'm from. We have a local secret of, well, not really a secret, but movie Jeepers Creepers was based from here. I just want to know if any of y'all's hometown have any creepy stories like that. Love you guys.
Any creepy stories from your hometown?
Jeepers Creepers
Yeah.
is scary ass.
I
When
don't.
I grew up, that shit's fire. When I grew up, there was this joint. I think I talked about this, but there was this joint. I lived behind this ditch bank on one of my houses that I grew up in. So it's just like ditches, and there was something called the Yarona, and the Yarona was like this lady who had been said to. I forget the entire story, but I think she like killed one of her kids or something like that to get something. I forget it. But anyway, the fable goes that she like stalks the ditches at night and cries for her kid every night, and so like it's supposed to keep kids away from going to the ditches.
It's creepy.
Wendigo.
What's that?
You guys ever heard of the Wendigo?
Wendigo? No.
Like it's a Native American mythological being. Like, I don't know, it's
Like Chupacabra?
kind of, but it's more like people. I think people are like they're called skinwalkers. I think they shapeshift.
Mm-hmm.
The Wendigo.
Is that what the Wendigo is? Is this?
I think it's one of those.
Never heard of that.
Yeah.
I had a type of Ebola virus that was from the town right next to mine.
You had
Mm.
Ebola?
Yeah, I think there are like 6 different types of Ebola virus, and one of them is named after Reston, Virginia. It's called Ebola
Oh.
Reston. It's actually like it's not that scary of a virus for humans. I don't think that it can actually make humans sick. Humans can carry it, but it will kill monkeys. So like if you're an animal handler and you get it, you can transfer it to a different monkey, and then they'll get it and they'll die. And the fear was that it would evolve or that it would mutate, and it would be transmissible human to human and actually cause fatalities in humans. But yeah, it was just like a few monkeys that died. But people were really scared about it because it was the Ebola virus in the United States.
Remember when those monkeys got loose in Pennsylvania recently?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I just found this actually pretty cool. In modern psychiatry, the Wendigo lends its name to a form of psychosis known as Wendigo psychosis, which is characterized by symptoms such as an intense craving for human flesh and an intense fear of becoming a cannibal. Wendigo psychosis is described as a culture-bound syndrome. In some First Nations communities, other symptoms such as insatiable greed and destruction of the environment are also thought to be symptoms of Wendigo psychosis. Huh.
Wendigo psychosis.
Culture-bound syndromes are really interesting because, like, for example, schizophrenia in, like, the Indian subcontinent, like, doesn't represent itself in malevolent ways. Like, for example, the voices that people are sometimes hearing aren't saying bad things. They think it's the voice of their ancestors. And because they're culturally, because that's their attitude towards,
Like the stigma.
yeah, they have no stigma. So it doesn't represent itself in, like, bad ways.
You're like lucky if you get it.
Yeah, and you like,
Or they think that you're communicating with
yeah,
ancestors.
yeah, and you don't have the, like, since it's, like, not necessarily bad in their culture, it doesn't have worse symptoms.
Huh.
Hmm.
Yeah, anybody else have anything creepy from their hometown?
Yeah, so in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, there's a little, it's technically a 2-lane road, but if there's another car coming the other way, one of y'all's got to, like, get off on the side for the other one to pass. That's how narrow it is. And it's
Democrats.
what?
I'm just joking, but go ahead.
Anyway, so it's lined with very tall trees, and the road starts at there's a Masonic temple on one end of the road, and on the other end of the road there's a church, and between it's just, like, neglected farmland. And I heard a story one time that it's named Tate's Lane because there was a guy named Tate. He was a Confederate soldier. He came back from the Civil War and was, like, a horrible slave master. All slave owners were terrible. But he was, like, a brutal slave owner and would, like, hang slaves if they, like, disobeyed. And then there's all sorts of creepy shit that has gone on that road since then.
Like supernatural stuff?
Like alleged clan meetings, things of that nature. Just, like, bad shit going on Tate's Lane. And then it's, like, a dangerous road because it's tiny.
They off Tate's Lane.
Yeah.
Mine's probably the most well known. There was this fat guy we sold to New York around 1918, and then the whole city was cursed for roughly 86 years.
Yep. Who could forget?
Finance a musical.
Babe Ruth.
What happened in 2003? It was 2003, right?
When we broke the curse?
2004.
Yeah.
2004. What's generally accepted as the thing that broke the curse? Is there an event that people can point to and be like,
Pedro Martinez putting Viagra in her, getting
You
boners?
mispronounced the strangest word.
Dude, I literally think that I just linguistically I'm
impediment of
terrible at
some sort?
languages. I don't know what it is. Like
Pedro.
Pedro.
Yeah,
You didn't say
said
it like that
Pedro.
last time.
but Coley,
Like
what,
you-
is there anything that you can point to and be like, this is what did it? There was one event.
Well, lest we forget, this is when Jimmy Fallon was filming
Major
his Red
League.
Sox movie that just so happened to coincide with us winning the World Series. So the final scene was actually them at the World Series. He just so happened to film it that year. But a lot of people point to Kevin Millar just absolutely dominating Dan Shaughnessy publicly while they were down 3-0 to the Yankees and being like, you're a fucking moron. Well, all we have to do is win today. They're going to crumble. And then we'll win the next game, So it's a combination of that and just David Ortiz's general awesomeness. And Kurt Schilling did some stuff too. That three-headed monster, pretty much. There wasn't like, I mean, if you really want to get down to it, I think it all started with Ray Bork winning with the Colorado Avalanche and then throwing a parade in the streets of Boston to celebrate another city's championship. That's when we kind of got our shit together. We were like, this is unacceptable. We can't be celebrating Colorado Avalanche championships.
Billy, hang on one second. I don't want to gloss over the fact that when Coley said Jimmy Fallon was filming his movie, which is called Fever Pitch, by the way, and it's one of the great rom-coms ever invented. Malin, you said Major League?
Major League was like
is the one about the Indians /
Yeah, I was
Guardians.
like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I do love that movie.
Very
Fever Pitch.
different
I'm
film.
so
was that
sorry.
91?
Slightly different.
I'm
yeah.
sorry. I know that movie. I love that movie. I'm sorry to all.
I
of
couldn't
the
remember the
fans
name.
of
I was gonna say
Fever Pitch
Summer
and Maybe.
Catch, but I knew that was wrong.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
people. It's become cool to like hate Fever Pitch. Fever Pitch is awesome.
No, I like that movie. It's
Great
really
movie.
sweet.
Mm.
Sorry to fuck that one up. That's my bad. I've seen both movies.
If
I
you-
love both movies.
If you love me enough to sell these tickets, I love you enough not to let you. Cry every time.
Hey, speaking of tickets, what's the status on these OKC Jones?
We'll talk offline.
We're working on it.
So actually, it's funny some of the stuff that was done to break
I don't know if I like that.
the.
I felt a
I didn't
little.
like the tone. Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah,
care for the-
we'll talk offline. We're working on it. Okay, all right.
It's dude. There's a whole office. Yeah, never mind. So
Something's going on. I can't wait to hear.
so like stuff to break the curse is they put like a Red Sox hat on the top of Mount Everest.
Why you got like 6 cups next to you?
I've been chugging green tea all day.
You can use the same cup twice.
I like this, because these cups leak.
Do they?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
They're not
okay.
super
That makes sense.
reusable. I agree with him.
Okay, that would make sense. Then.
Well, when
okay.
you're putting hot tea in there, like I feel like the inside melts a little bit and then it leaks.
There's a Red Sox cap on
Which-
the top of Mount Everest.
Yes.
Mhm.
And like a couple other. So burning a Yankee camp, a Yankees cap at the base camp of Mount Everest, putting the Boston on the top, finding a piano owned by Babe Ruth, and supposedly pushing it into a pond near his Sudbury, Mass farm home.
We did destroy a lot of like. I'm pretty sure someone bought the '86 World Series ball and destroyed like the Bill Buckner ball and destroyed that. Like we were big on destroying things.
In 1976, Lori Cabot, the official witch of Massachusetts, was brought in to end a 10-game losing streak. While the losing streak ended, the curse of the Bambino did not. In Ken Burns' 1994 documentary Baseball, former Red Sox pitcher Bill Lee suggested that the Red Sox should exhume the body of Babe Ruth, transport it back to Fenway, and publicly apologize for trading Ruth to the Yankees. Some declared
And burn it.
Yeah. Beat him up.
burn his body. Some declared the curse broken during a game on August 31st, 2004, when a foul ball hit by Manny Ramirez flew into Section 9, Box 95, Row AA, and struck a boy's face, knocking 2 of his teeth out. 16-year-old Lee Gavin, a Boston fan whose favorite player was Ramirez, lived on the Sudbury farm owned by Ruth. Same day, the Yankees suffered their worst loss in team history, a 22-0 clobbering at home against the Cleveland Indians. Some fans also cite a comedy curse-breaking ceremony performed by musician Jimmy Buffett and his warm-up team, one dressed as Ruth and one dressed as a witch doctor, at Fenway concert in September 2004. Just after being traded to the Red Sox, Curt Schilling appeared in an advertisement for the Ford F-150 pickup truck, hitchhiking with a sign indicated he was going to Boston. When picked up, he said that he had an 86-year-old curse to break.
I think I'm going to go with the official witch of Massachusetts.
I think
Which
she broke the streak, but
I'm pretty sure we still have enough. Like Massachusetts is big on witches.
they've
Like,
been
that's-
really nice to witches.
It takes some balls to be
lately.
like, I am the official state witch of Massachusetts.
We take witches very seriously in Massachusetts.
Well-
I don't understand why more people don't.
Well, because they were so heavily persecuted.
Well, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, anybody can say, like, I'm the official witch of Minnesota.
Gotta
I
think in the
think-
state witch draft. That's Massachusetts going 50th.
I have a
yeah,
feeling that
definitely.
if you wrote in a college essay that you were a witch and identified as a witch, you might like qualify
That's the thing now. Like
for
girls.
affirmative.
Oh,
But-
Wiccan? Yeah, you can be Wiccan.
Well, yeah,
like-
girls now like are like into witchcraft. That's the thing.
Yeah, you can be Wiccan. Wiccan is the religion or the spirituality. And then if you practice that, then you are a witch.
Yeah.
Whoa! Turns out the curse might have been anti-Semitic.
Okay.
Wait,
So who's to blame here? Like, Yankee fans or Red Sox fans? Who's being anti-Semitic?
Henry Ford. Wait a second.
Class. All roads lead back to Hank Ford.
Glenn Stout argues that the idea of a curse was indirectly influenced by anti-Semitism, although that aspect was not part of its modern usage. He even says this does not mean that anyone who writes or speaks of the curse today as a journalist or a fan is either anti-Semitic or even remotely aware of the anti-Semitic roots of the curse. Because Frazee was from New York and involved in theater, it was assumed he was Jewish. Actually, he was a Presbyterian. Oh.
So it sounds like the curse got canceled.
Yeah. That's Henry
Kurt
Ford's.
Schilling hated that anti-Semitism, so he ended it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Case closed.
The Dearborn Independent ran a series of articles purporting to expose how Jews were destroying America, and among these were articles lambasting Frazee, saying that his purchase of the Red Sox, another club, was placed on the smother. Oh, wow. Jeez. Yeah.
I mean, he did literally sell the best baseball player of all time at that point for $100,000 just to finance a play. It was an insane move, no matter how you want to.
What play was it?
It was his girlfriend.
No, Nanette.
What was it called?
No, Nanette. It's a bad play. Like, it bombed historically. Damn. It was not T for 2 and 2 for T is the only thing that came out of it, and we didn't need that as a society.
Man, I think that really the credit needs to go to Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Brady definitely deserves some of it. He had won 2 at that point.
Everywhere he goes, he just attracts championships. It's amazing what happened in Tampa.
The Rays did lose.
Yeah, but they made it to the World Series.
They made it in 08.
But they also won the Stanley Cup.
Twice.
They'd won the Stanley Cup before he got there, right?
They had.
In 2004, but then they won the last 2.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, listen, we haven't won since he left.
Is there a new curse?
Could be, but we didn't sell him. He just left, so I don't know.
But just his essence.
Yeah.
Possible. I mean, we haven't been bad since he left in really any of the sports, so it's hard to feel cursed yet.
You want to do another voicemail?
Yep.
Let's do it.
What's up, guys? And Mad Dog, this is Alex from Atlanta, Georgia, current World Series and national champ, like the T. My question
Not
is,
a national champ yet.
let's say
But
a draft happens, we all get drafted. What position would you want in the military? Love you guys. Stay handsome, stay gorgeous. Keep the hollow worth pot. All right, thanks.
My answer immediately is housewife.
In the military? Is that a position?
Nope. I'm just not getting drafted. Put me in the kitchen. I'm done.
You would put the biggest yellow ribbon around your
Oh
tree.
my God. I would leave the workforce so quickly.
Is it true that it's like illegal to cheat on your spouse if they're in the military?
No.
there's a 0% chance that
I
that's
read that.
accurate.
I mean, adultery is frowned upon. I don't know if there's
Yeah, I mean,
laws.
cheating is just bad in general, but
Yeah, there's
Someone
a lot of law.
told me
The words of Alan from The Hangover, it's not illegal, it's frowned upon, like masturbating on an airplane.
Yeah, I think. Oh no, it's the other way. If you're in the military,
I
and you
think that's
commit-
illegal.
That's
The maximum.
that's what they say in the movie.
the
Have you not seen The Hangover?
It's been a minute.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And then they say, I'm pretty sure that's illegal too. And he says, yeah, maybe since 9/11, thanks Bin Laden. It's one of the great comedic lines in history.
Yeah, if you're.
Alan.
So I got wrong. If you're in the military, adultery, you can be dishonorably discharged and forfeiture of all pay and allowances and confinement for up to a year. Crazy.
well.
But if you're at home, you can cheat.
It's all
Yeah.
good.
Oh, but
Yeah.
also, if you're at home, if I'm a housewife in the middle of a war, and everyone's getting drafted, like who are you sleeping around with?
Man, yo, I've heard some stories about
Yeah.
their wives, dog.
That's yeah.
Oh, is that bad?
No. You'd probably be
You
Rosie
talk
the
about
Riveter.
dis- like all the shit Kaepernick got really should have went to them. You talk about disrespecting the troops.
Have you guys ever seen that meme?
Which one?
That's funny.
The one with the ladies in the same outfit.
I've not seen it. I think I would be.
To answer the
What?
question.
End of story. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what I would be. I think I would suck in the military, honestly.
Do you think you'd
I'd
be like
be in
computer
jail.
guy?
I'm not.
No,
I'm
I'm
not
not-
fighting no other white man war. Fuck all that.
I'm not. Yeah.
Not doing it.
I mean, it's against my religion to fight in a war.
Wait, are you
Facts.
not to be ageist? Are you aged out of the draft yet?
I think so. Yeah.
35.
Probably. Yeah, probably.
37. I'm unable to serve. I would totally
Outta
go.
there.
I
Would you
abso-
actually?
No. No, but I mean, if like we were being invaded by somebody, and I had
think
to
you'd
figure
be
out how to
great
survive,
at guerrilla warfare. I think you'd be sneaky as fuck.
I would be sneaky. I've always wanted to be a pilot. I'd probably stink at it, but I've wanted to be a pilot.
I was
for a
gonna
while.
say the answer's got to be drone pilot.
Drone pilot's pretty nice. That's a
Yeah.
cush job. Yeah.
Dude,
I think it requires a lot more learning than you think.
Oh no, yeah, it's one of the I'm not saying I could do it,
But
I'm
they're
saying in the event that if
Sure,
we have to
yeah,
pick
yeah.
something, that's what I'm picking.
they're flying those drones from Vegas too.
Yep.
That's wild.
Just give up our guys, Billy. What the fuck?
No,
I'm-
that's well known. That
I'm
was
pretty
like
sure
six-
that's known.
It's 60
know.
minutes.
I would be the like little guy that cracked too many jokes, kept everybody light, and died in the second act. That's probably me.
You'd be a glue guy.
But you'd be the
Glue guy,
one.
yeah.
But like your death, like really is the tearjerker.
Yeah.
'Cause everyone's like,
Mhm.
"Oh no!"
Saving PFT comments or
Or I would be an animal handler, and I would find the new Wojtek, the bear.
Falconer?
Yeah, Falconer. There you go. What about you, Billy? This question's really just for you.
No, I don't know. I've always wanted to be. I always wanted to be a fighter pilot. I always wanted to be a Navy SEAL.
I could see him in SEAL Team 6.
Navy SEAL fighter pilot.
Why can't I do both? No, it would be. I don't know. I mean, it's fun. We're joking about it. It's the only thing in the news, so like the only thing you can make. But it's a pretty serious endeavor.
I think you'd be a sniper.
My grandfather was very.
See, you can tell Billy, like, I think you'd be good at anything. He'd be like, you know what? Yeah, no, you're right. Billy just got done being like, we shouldn't even like really say what we're gonna be. You know, out of respect for the troops. But Billy, you could I could see you being captain of a tank, like commanding a tank.
The thing about being a sniper is it's a lot of laying around and waiting.
Yeah.
Like, just laying out somewhere, trying to stay still.
Was Zero Dark 30 about snipers?
That was
No.
about Bin Laden.
You're
Really,
thinking
I get a
American
lot of
sniper.
entertainment from you, dog. You are a funny cat. Man.
Appreciate that.
Big T, what would you be?
Drone pilot.
Drone pilot, yeah. What about you, Coley?
My mind goes to like naval, like cook, like working in the kitchen on a boat.
Yeah.
Submarine.
Oh,
An
you,
Call your
accountant.
hoss.
you don't want to be on
Yeah,
the ship.
right.
What's for
though.
breakfast, hoss?
Yeah, I'm getting much fatter during the. I'm the only person getting fatter during the war.
You don't want to be on a ship though.
Why?
First of all, your height not doing great on a ship.
Oh, yeah.
Secondly, that's just like if you can choose land or sea, I'm choosing land 11 times out of 10.
Wait, also Coley,
But
don't
if
you
I'm
have
choosing
vertigo?
land as a cook, I'm not like here cooking. I'm overseas cooking. Like
Dude,
at least I can be.
I heard those aircraft carriers are pretty cushy.
I don't think that's true.
No,
I
like
feel like it probably sucks being on a giant ship.
because that's where all the Navy SEALs are chilling. They're like all working out in the weight rooms in the aircraft carriers, and they have
I
like pretty good amenities.
I think Billy just has a different idea of what cushy is.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I don't know. I feel like
no. What I'm really saying is they have sick gyms on
Yeah,
ships.
that's
I
what
saw a
that's-
picture. Yeah,
yeah.
that's really what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I would be the guy that runs with like a folded up piece of paper, like between the Senate and the White House,
You
to
could
like
be the trumpet guy.
to give like a important message to the president before he nukes somebody. I feel like that's me.
Drummer boy
Yeah.
would be sick.
You're
Drummer
musical
boy.
inclined. Yeah.
We don't do drummer boys anymore, do we?
Can't imagine. I don't know why it was ever done.
No, now we just bring a speaker and you carry a boombox.
What do you mean?
I could be.
Is there actually
Robin
mu-
Williams?
Is there
in Good
music?
Morning
Yeah,
Vietnam.
USO shows. Are
Yeah.
there? Oh yeah, like the radio show that he did.
Yeah.
Boom. There we go. That's what I would do. I would do.
Podcast.
I would do a podcast from New York that you could listen to anywhere in the world.
Good morning, Vietnam.
Yeah. Okay. Problem solved.
How does the draft work? Like when you are 18, does something just show up at your house?
Yeah.
You have to
Yep.
fill out a form and send it to the government.
Serious? Like
Yeah.
what's on it? Like your height and your weight and stuff?
No,
I'm
just
pretty
like
sure
your-
you literally just check a box that says like I agree.
Yeah,
I may
it's your
have-
name, your height. No, not your height. Your name, your date of birth, probably your social on there,
Mm-hmm.
and like location of birth. And you check a box, and now you're in the select service thing, where if they do reinstate the draft, they have a system. I know in Vietnam they would do it by birthdays, so we do a lottery that was actually on live TV, where they would pick a number.
So it's like the Hunger
Yeah.
Games?
Yep.
May the odds be ever in your favor.
Yeah. Oh, that's so
Yeah.
scary.
Going back to school is what I'm doing.
Getting that
They're
degree.
gonna have to put me in jail, doggy.
There's some
And they're gonna have to come get me too.
there's some funny stories about how Ted Nugent got out of the draft back in Vietnam because he didn't want to fight, which I'll never like begrudge anybody for not wanting to fight as long as they don't later on in life become the guy that's like, let's send the army there. Which Ted Nugent absolutely became later on. But he pissed and shit himself for like 3 weeks just to build up a giant stench around him so that when he went into the meeting, they were like, this guy's crazy. He's unfit for military service.
Bruce Springsteen did something similar.
A lot of people were doing
Got
stuff like that.
hammered.
Yeah.
Huh.
Again, don't blame him. Vietnam sounded like a bad time.
We
None
we
of
can do
them
an episode
sound
on
like
that.
a great time.
On Vietnam?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot that went
Yeah.
into it.
We should all watch the doc.
You should watch Ready Player One, dog.
Oh, I read the Spark Note.
That's just disrespectful, man.
No, I did the reading.
I feel like every episode of this podcast, Arian, you're putting like a little, you know what an Easter egg is? I feel like you're leaving.
That's in Ready Player One. I feel like you're fucking with me now. I feel like you're fucking
No,
with me.
no, you're doing this.
Ah,
You're
fuck
putting an
that.
Easter egg.
Fuck that.
You're-
You seen the shit, dog.
You're putting
You
an
ain't seen
Easter
it.
egg.
I seen it. I know.
I sniffed this out last week. PFT has seen the film.
I watched it. I watched it like a month ago, and I've just been making references to Ready Player One without
This is the
saying
first
that
one
I've
I
ever
cut.
seen
This is the
it.
first one I cut.
Remember-
This is the first one I cut.
The
Last
super
week
cut.
he literally said like the plot of the film.
Yeah,
That's-
remember
The cut up of them is going to be awesome.
Remember
But I
during the
think
moon?
that would be fun.
Remember during
No,
the
I thi-
moon episode? I was like, you were like, you think you could just trick an Air Force pilot and make him think they go to the moon? And I was like, some people are getting tricked right now.
So all y'all seen it.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if Billy's seen it.
I
but
read the Spark
I
Notes.
have not, but
I
I
haven't.
was in on this plan.
But we were all in on the plan.
I told.
I was not in on the plan.
I
Yeah,
told
and you
him-
almost ruined it.
Cause I sniff things out. That's what I do.
All right, my
Yeah, nah.
official analysis of Ready Player One. Good movie. I enjoyed it.
Oh, fuck off. Yo, I'm more mad about the plan that y'all been devising now. That shit is funny as hell.
It's going to make for a
When did it
great
start?
social video.
When did it start, though?
Like a month ago, maybe.
Yeah, like 3 weeks ago.
God,
There's
Lord.
three-
What was the first thing you said?
I think it was
Turn the internet off
yeah,
twice a week.
Yeah, turn the internet off for 2 days a
yeah.
week.
And Arian goes, "That's in the movie."
It was
Yeah,
turn.
so every week, this nigga give me to say that's in the movie.
Turn the internet off
I
twice
like
a
it. I
week.
love it. I
Last
love it.
week's
That's-
was
I'd have done some.
the
I'd have
whole
done some smart
plot.
ass shit. I'd have
La-
done some smart ass shit like that. I love it.
Last week I was saying that I'll bet we're gonna get to a place with virtual reality where like everything that people have in the metaverse, it's gonna mean more to them than
Yeah.
in real
Bro,
life.
Yeah.
I got into a bar fight in the metaverse. In that bar, like in the game, like I put on the Oculus. It was realistic. Fuck.
I still haven't put that on.
Like it was weird because I took them off and basically, like when I was remembering back what I was doing like 5 minutes prior, I didn't remember it as if I was playing a game or interacting with anything. I like remembered it as like being in the bar.
Yeah, Billy looks at the metaverse like a dog looks at a mirror. He's like, no, it's real. There's another dog there. I saw
No,
the
but
dog.
it was just so realistic. Like I was in
He's
there
staring at me.
I was in there swinging on guys, grabbing glass bottles and banging them over other dudes' heads in the metaverse.
Why were you getting in a fight? What was the reason?
It's a bar fight simulator in the metaverse.
All right, that does it for this week's episode of Macrodosing.
What
We'll
a good
see you
plan,
guys.
What a good plan. You got me. I like it.
We'll see you guys on Thursday
Mhm.
for nanodosing. Love you guys, and yeah, take care. Be safe.